Ah, yes, that there is the call of the Wookiee, and that means we are live on Freaky Friday. How you doing, Scotty Lopez? Are we ready to go for our weekly dive down the deepest of the rabbit holes? It is time to get freaky, my man. Have you had a good week since we joined forces during the week there? All good? Now, before we get going tonight, Scott, I sent you a little video yesterday that I took a look at on one of my streams. Really cool rainbow. And when I was watching it, we went over it on the stream, and I had no issues with the fact that I went and found that it was a rainbow effect, but I was a bit kind of cautious because there was something troubling me. And like I always say, when it comes to that kind of stuff, you're far more skilled than I am. And I'm pleased to report that Scott has got some good news about that, right? Not, yeah, not faked, all good. And I must admit, Scott, right now it's that we don't really usually get the humidity, but it's needing to thunder. I know that sounds weird, but it needs to clear the air, you know? Okay, hang on now. People cannot hear you talking. Wait a moment now. That's okay. I'll get that fixed. That's okay. There you are, Scott. Try now.
Hello,
yes,
hello.
There we are. Yes, so Scotty, what was this video like? What was it? Was it a good video? No shenanigans. I wasn't censoring you there, by the way. You know, it's just like I was saying to you before the show. Amateur McBoomer here decided, yeah, I'll run and get the new update for Windows 10. It's set everything back to default. All of my internal settings for my groovy soundboard, all gone. And, oh dude, I'm still trying to roll with the punches here. But the video, let's take it from the top again. Was it good?
Yeah, it was actually a good video. It wasn't faked or anything. That was just a rainbow. That's what you see. Like I was, you know, we get that a lot here in Kansas, and you know, I was saying that you don't get big storms like that very often in the UK, and I noticed it was filmed in the UK, so I'm sure it was probably a pretty spectacular sight for somebody who doesn't get to see storms like that often. But
that's why I expected to see it in the local media down there, and when I couldn't see it in the local media, oh, the spidey senses went up a gear. But no, I defer to you on these matters. You're a sky watcher, you're a weather watcher, and you've got a keen eye for shenanigans.
What that was it was a what you would call a shelf cloud or a gust front out ahead of a storm coming through, and usually there's a lot of rain that is behind it. And if the sun is at an angle where it's, you know, shining out ahead of that gust front and shining into the storm, then you're going to get like a very spectacular rainbow like that. And I know on the camera it kind of looked like a dome or something.
Yeah, it was looking like Under the Dome. I love that TV show, man. And then I went online and I looked for, stupidly, Sky Dome. Oh, you can imagine some of the things I was met with.
No.
Oh, I was ripping my eyeballs out trying to get to the mouse, and I'm thinking, how can I skew the search term to save those neurons of mine? But we got there, and I found that the kind of effect that we were talking about.
It's actually just a full rainbow.
Yeah.
really. Like if you're able to see a rainbow in its full form without it, like trees or anything obstructing part of it, then it's going to arc all the way across like a dome, from one end all the way to the other. And another interesting thing is that if you're in an airplane or a helicopter or something and you see a rainbow, it's a complete circle. Have you ever seen that?
I've seen that once. I actually seen it when I was at work once, Scott. It was like a mad sundog thing right around the sun. I wouldn't have called it a rainbow per se. This thing was weird, dude. It was like, I've still got photos of it somewhere.
Well, I'm talking about just a rainbow. The only reason that it looks like an arc when you're on the ground is because half of it's cut off by your perspective. But if you're up in a helicopter or an airplane or something, then the rainbow is a complete circle in the rain. And so yeah, but no, there was nothing faked about that video or anything like that. It just was a really cool weather phenomenon that they managed to capture on film. And the supposed objects, those were just birds. You could tell that those were just birds flying around. So unfortunately, no woo with that one, but it still was a cool video.
It very much was. It really was. And tonight, we're going to be getting into some very good woo. We're going ghosties. We're going goblins. We're getting into all the good stuff. And if I just head on over to the Wookiee Cave, first of all, and I give a shout out to Paradoxical Anomaly, V-Lash, Robofish, Waffle Buddy, Cold Brews, and yes, they will certainly be filing in as we get into today's talk. And before we get going, I had Chris Anatra, the quantum businessman, on talking with me before this, Scott. He's about to take part in a week-long conference for the Mandela Effect, and it is absolutely free to watch online. I know, your face was the same as mine. I didn't think I was reading it right. You don't get nothing for nothing these days, right? But no, it's going to be live streamed on YouTube, and yeah, the Mandelas, he really seems to be taking a very scientific approach to this. It's, for me, it's a breath of fresh air, because I think the whole Mandela Effect research had kind of plateaued out. It was more a case of pointing out the ones we'd seen before, and, some people having their new ones, but we were never really getting to the kind of concepts that perhaps might lead to something like the Mandela Effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing with the Mandela stuff. Like, a lot of it was just pointing them out, but there was never really much like as to why or what's causing it.
It's like I said to Chris, it's almost like a parlor game, isn't it? You share your Mandelas, somebody has a new one. But yeah, I'm liking the way Chris is going about it. Holographic universe, that type of approach. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and he really took a big risk coming out and doing that, as being the the CEO of a company and all of that.
He was saying on the show that that's the people he gets the most kickback from. That's the people who tell him probably the most. Maybe you should just leave that Mandela Effect stuff. That's way out there. But no, he continues, and I take my hat off to him, man. Absolutely. Yeah. Not only for what he's doing, but who he is and his position as well,
Exactly. I mean, it takes a certain size of cojones to just decide that.
Rather large ones, Mr. Lopez. Yes, indeed. Well, we're going to kick off tonight's mystery tour of Woo with what I thought might be a little bit repetitive. But when I went through it, it's actually not. Now, we've been enjoying a lot of Scottish Woo just lately. I was even showing Scott the Scottish Pyramid that part of me thinks on one timeline we covered before, and then there's another part of me that thinks that, no, I've never talked about it. There's also a part of me that thinks I was at the Scottish Pyramid when I was a child, Scott, on a school trip. But again, that's kind of hazy. I remember going to the Cairngorms. Something sticks in my mind. And then my mum last night, the daily Scrabble ritual, she's like, I'm sure you've spoke about that pyramid before. And I just giggled. I says, yeah, part of me remembers that, but part of me, no idea. Do you remember us talking about Scottish pyramids?
No, I don't.
Uh,
But
uh.
is this some strange Mandela we're
No,
talking
no,
about?
no. Oh, no, no. I mean, it's more a Mandela in my mind. It's almost like my own memories. There's part of me thinks I went there when I was young on a school trip, but then part of me thinks, no, I didn't. I remember roughly the school trip, but me.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just like your own personal Mandela
Yeah.
kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a little one that definitely, I don't know, it was weird talking about it because part of me thought it was familiar, and then the other hemisphere of the brain's going, but wait, it's not. You see, I even had to say to the quantum businessman today, I've been in a bit of a quandary this week altogether, Scott, because we had our show and we've had the other shows going on as well, and from time to time, you reflect, right? You look at what you're doing, you look at the content you're doing, where the show's going, and really I was starting to think about just everything bigger picture in general. What is it we're doing, in alternative media? Even on a more kind of loose kind of way, Freaky Friday, but more the Kev Baker show, dipping our toe into the kind of political. And are we really doing good, or are we helping to drag people back into the Matrix? Even though we're pointing out the ways of the Matrix, I don't know, dude. It's just weird. What role are we playing in this hologram we're in? Are we helping by showing people, or are we taking them down a rabbit hole that perhaps they would have been better off never knowing?
I don't know.
Does it make sense to you? Because I don't even make sense of it in my head. It's almost like, I was saying to Chris, even like when you come across stuff, we've mentioned this before, but after watching Westworld and Solomon AIs and stuff, you have to wonder how much of even what you find organically online were you led to deliberately by maybe something you don't know about, It's weird, Scott. Maybe I'm just overthinking things.
I was just about to say, I think sometimes we tend to overanalyze.
Apophenia. That's what that's called. Apophenia. Yes.
We tend to overanalyze and overthink, and I think people that do what we do tend to do that.
We have that type of brain.
We have that where we're constantly analyzing things, and we tend to kind of maybe sometimes go overboard with it. You know what I just say?
We used to.
Just go with your gut.
Yeah.
Go with your gut, and if you feel like talking about something, talk about it. If you don't feel like talking about something, don't talk. If you feel like you don't need to talk about it, then don't talk about it.
That's a good point because when you have a show, people want you to talk about things, and it almost not a pressure, but it can steer you towards maybe something that organically you wouldn't have gone into. So yeah, I see what you're saying there. That makes sense, man.
Yeah, like okay, sometimes we okay, so Freaky Friday we focus more on the woo and all of that stuff, but Kev Baker show. But like Kev Baker, when you do Kev Baker show, then we can touch on some of the other topics, like more political kind of stuff and things going on in the world or whatever. And we were discussing how there are times when we need to talk about stuff like that. I mean, you just can't act like none of that's even happening.
Yeah, when it's burning down round about you, you can't go and talk about goblins that night.
Exactly. And so I think that's where, like me and you were starting to strike that balance, where maybe once a week or something like that, I'm going to come on the Kev Baker show and we'll talk about that kind of stuff, because we need to unload on that kind of stuff as well and get a lot of that stuff off of our chest. And I think that just makes for a more healthy, it's just better all around, then we can focus on the woo when we want to focus on the woo, and we can focus on that, on the other stuff when we need to focus on that stuff as well, You just got to strike that balance.
And there is definitely a lot of woo for us to get into today. So,
Yes.
and periodically, for people out there that are watching us, don't get afraid if Scott Lopez starts morphing into various other entities on camera. He's dealing with a bit of a possession problem right now. That'll become clearer as the show goes on, no doubt. But I was talking about Scotland, right? And my mum sent me 13 haunted places in Scotland. And I thought to myself, I have gone over so many of the lists about Scotland that this is going to be like regurgitating old stuff. But no, actually, there's only a couple of crossovers. So I think that'll probably be a good way to kick us off, Scotty. I've got ghost stories, we've got creepypasta pulled up. We are going to get into some really weird woo, and we're going to go for it live. We're going to basically put it together on air. I've got a couple of websites open. Apart from that, we're pretty much live dive on Freaky Friday.
And who knows what rabbit holes.
Wabbit holes.
Just wabbit holes.
Exactly, dude. Well, we will set off into the Scottish wabbit hole, and we know that that's got tunnels all the way over Europe, so it's a good place to start, right? 13 haunted places in Scotland that will give you the creeps. So it says a good spooky story is not just for Halloween. If the legends are to be believed, there could be a few bumps in the night, not just on October the 31st, but the most ghostly night of the year, but every night. To get into the spirit of things, we've uncovered some spine-chilling ghost stories from our creepiest castles, the most sinister houses, and the eeriest moors. Oh, yes, indeed. This will get us going just nicely before the break, Scott. So this year, Crassus Castle, with enchanting turrets, towers, and ornate rooms, Crassus Castle near Bankery, that's Aberdeen way, if I remember rightly, certainly looks like a place spirits will haunt. And yeah, it looks like we had a Hammer House of Horrors over here when I was growing up, Scott. That's your typical kind of Dracula house, So it says the castle was first built in the 1500s by the Burnett family, with the brooding tower house still standing. Now it's said to be haunted by the restless spirit of the Green Lady. Ah, Celtic supporter, not a white lady. Yes, a green lady, Scott. A ghostly apparition dressed, well, it goes without saying it's a green robe. It was hardly going to be yellow, was it? It is said that she was a servant girl, or a ward of the laird who disappeared soon after having a child. Now, in the 1800s, skeletal remains were found behind the fireplace in a room she has been spotted in. Sinister as it sounds, I bet you that's gone on a whole lot more than we probably know about. Illegitimate kids with servants and, the laird or the lord of the land taking things that weren't entitled to him, Scott. That's what they were doing,
Yeah, you gotta wonder how much of that stuff really went on back then too. And not only that, I mean, just that aside, people passing away in a building or in a house or something, and I mean, were a lot of people able to afford to have somebody come out and remove the body and all of that stuff?
Did you have to worry about forensics in that day? Pretty much out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, think about how easy it would be to just hide a body back then.
Scott, I sometimes think how easy it would have been to commit a crime in the 50s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so you talk about that back then. I mean, how rampant do you think that really was happening? Just people getting murdered or...
Yeah. No.
And then nobody ever knowing how many of these are just...
And then you deal with a house like that, right? I mean, that guy, they've got money. I mean, they're obviously in the upper circles, So they're rubbing shoulders with the same people that would maybe be responsible for trying to get them. Well, that's a bit rigged then, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, so yeah, then you're talking about the ease in which somebody who is kind of, like you said, upper society, these upper echelons,
The
they
one
could get away with
percenters,
that stuff
man. Yes.
so easy back then,
Yeah.
shockingly easy, I would
Yes.
say.
Yes. Look, precisely. Even beyond what we can imagine, I would imagine. So Glencoe, now there is a place and a half. Oh, wow. And I'm sure it's going to get into a famous feud in here. So it says, the brutal Glencoe. Why is it when I talk about Scotland, I put on a more Scottish accent? Even I've noticed this. I need to get out of that. Which took place.
No, man,
No.
your inner,
Wallace.
Scottish.
Yeah, the inner Wallace comes out, man.
Kicking in. It's almost like you're going Super Saiyan, but you're going super Scottish.
That's it, dude. I am going super Scottish. That is it. The brutal Glencoe, which took place on the 13th of February in 1962. I think that should be the brutal Glencoe Massacre, not just the brutal Glencoe, because that location didn't take place on the 13th of February. So it was a massacre, folks, which took place on the 13th of February, 1692. And it's one of the bloodiest incidents in Scotland's history. The story goes that a troop of soldiers, acting on government orders, posed as friendly visitors before attacking their hosts, the Clan MacDonald, while they lay sleeping in their beds, murdering 38 men, women, and children. Now, other members of the Clan MacDonald are reported to have fled to the surrounding mountains, but died of exposure in a bitterly cold mountain landscape. Nowadays, people have claimed to see reenactments of the slaughter or have heard screams in the glen, particularly around the anniversary of the massacre.
Ooh.
Yeah. That was
yeah, I meant you're talking about a very traumatic event with a lot of emotional energy released, I'm sure. And yeah, what a hell of a way to. So they were. So what they were British government goons acting on the orders of the crown.
Yeah, King James II. I'm just taking a little look there. King James II is the one.
And they posing as friendlies and then murdered them, ambushed them, killed them.
Yeah. I'm trying to find... I always thought it was two families, the McDonald's and another family. My mum will probably message me to fill me in on the details. I was trying to look for the name of the other family there, but we talked about this just recently. Culloden Battlefield. And myself and Anne can definitely tell you that to this day, when we were up there, there's just a feeling. I imagine somewhere like Gettysburg, Scott, it's going to be the same, right? With any of these kind of big battles, one of those kind of battles that took place, that land's charged, right? With the violence that took place there, the trauma. And it says here that it was on the bleak moor in 1746 that the bloody Battle of Culloden took place near Inverness. In barely 40 minutes, thousands of clansmen were cut down, and the army of Bonnie Prince Charlie was destroyed, ending the Jacobite Rebellion. Cries, sword clashes, and gunfire have all been heard at the battlefield, and a forlorn-looking Highlander is said to haunt the area, allegedly mourning the word defeated, or murmuring the word defeated when encountered. Now, it says a forlorn-looking Highlander. That's any Highland man, by the way, Scott. The weather does that. It gives you that kind of crabbit look on your face, like you've kind of lost something and you're feeling sorry for yourself. That's just how we look over here, right? But it wouldn't surprise me that that's haunted. And what I don't know if they've
dude.
managed to stop it yet, but there's plans to build houses on there.
Oh, that's not. Nah, they need to stop that. That's like hollowed ground, you know.
Yeah, it was the Campbells and the McDonald's in Glencoe. And there's a funny story attached to that because we had a Campbell on one side.
It was a clan rivalry.
Yeah, they basically got a clan. Yeah, they enlisted. You know how it is, Scott. You know, people, turncoats. Yeah. We'll get back into this on the other side. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting warmed up on Freaky Friday. Yes, there we go. We're back here on the YouTube. I want to thank everyone for being here today. I was over on the main channel with Chris Anatra earlier on. Hopefully some of the people who have been thinking that I've left YouTube and don't do a show anymore, hopefully now they'll know that we're over here on KBS too. But no lightning strikes yet, Scotty, no?
No. But it is, I think it's starting to rain, so.
Now,
we're good.
Somebody's saying McGregor's in the chat room, but before we go anywhere, Scott, I think there could be a bit of a...
Excuse me, it's ma'am. Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Is there a ma'am about here, Scott? Is there?
What? You mean it's ma'am?
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Oh, yes.
Holy crap, what happened? Whoa, I need to shake this off. Shake it off. Shake it off.
Whoa, dude. Whoa, dude.
I don't know what happened, man.
I tell you, man, if Alex Jones sees that, he'll accuse you of taking one of those gay bombs. Oh, did I not blank myself out the right time there? Dang. You went full woman, dude. You went full.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
See, I told you Scott Lopez is, yeah, there we go, look. And I tell you, folks, that is just one of many. When we get into the trolls and the Tommy knockers, there's an even better one. And I do have a story where that will be apt for later on. So yes, Jason in the chat room. Exactly, Jason. That's something you don't want to be seeing too often, right? Disturbing how well he morphs into a woman, to be honest with you, man. You embracing that inner woman, Scott? Man, I feel like a...
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Sorry, dude. Don't, Scott. Don't do that when Joe Joseph's here. Because Joe might actually, like, pay you to keep that face on. You know what he's like, dude. He's a very sick individual. Yes, indeedy. So, look, we're going to be coming back in a little moment, folks. We're only getting warmed up. I have got creepypasta stories. We're going to take a random one from there. We have got minor spirits, cryptic witches, goblins, and more. If that isn't enough, we have also got the mysterious stone chambers of New England. And if we're going underground to the mysterious stone chambers, then I think it would only be fair if we also take a look at... I need to scroll down and find it now, Scott. Encounters with gnomes. Yes, indeed. Now,
gnomes and dwarves and all of that stuff.
Look at that thing, man. I don't care what size that is. Even if that's 2 foot and I walk into that thing, that's terrifying.
I mean, if we're gonna... I feel weird again.
Oh, no, it's a Tommy knocker, man. Damn, dude. Jason, I blame you. We not... whoa. There's people calling you a pretty woman. A pretty little woman in the chat room.
Come down to the cave and I'll show you a good time.
Jason says, I was messaging to praise your local work lately, but now I'm very disturbed. Very disturbed. Exactly. Who knew that we had the biggest bit of woo actually on the show with us? You see? Indeed. Now I need to get ready. Here we go, boys and girls. We are going back. 3, 2, 1, boom. That's the newest cry of the Wookiee. The Wookiee's getting excited. I'm getting excited. Scott Lopez is that excited. He's turning into a woman. It's all going off on here. Yes, indeed. I don't know why I gave you the clown noise there, Scott. You weren't a female clown. I'm sorry. I apologise for clown noising you.
I mean, I could look for a clown in here.
No. You morphing into a chick is disturbing enough, man.
Does that make me a shapeshifter, Kev?
It would do. It technically, absolutely would make you a shapeshifter. It's like by definition you're a shapeshifter. So before you shift too many shapes, let us get back to the woo. Edinburgh Castle. Edinburgh is like ground zero for paranormal activity. There's parts of that city that are now underground. You know, they call it the Old City, and that's where you get Mary Queen's Court. I think that's what you call it. One of the most haunted places in the world. You've had all the American ghost hunting teams coming over here. You've had Most Haunted there umpteen times. Anyone that's anything about ghost hunting goes to Edinburgh, and that's why I can't wait for my good friend Jason, First Paranormal. Eventually we'll get him up here to Scotland, and there'll be so much for him to get into. He probably won't want to go home again. The Edinburgh Castle, that's an interesting one. Perched high on the Scottish capital, the world-famous Edinburgh Castle is thought to be one of the most haunted places in Scotland, and there have been numerous reports of paranormal activity over the years. Former prisoners are said to haunt the dungeons, and a headless drummer, first seen shortly before Oliver Cromwell attacked the castle in 1650, has also been spotted. Now, although many people have heard the sound of the drums coming from the battlements, his physical appearance is rare and said to foretell danger of the castle.
Ooh.
Have you noticed, like, that time period, let's say 1650 to 1800, that was a bit of a... Well, let's just say Scotland was in turmoil.
Yeah, there was a lot of
Yep.
a lot of action going on. Let's just say a
Big
lot
time,
of
dude.
stuff happening.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
time. So this one here I'd never heard of. Scale House in Orkney. And that's one of the islands just off the north of Scotland, if I'm correct. My geography's terrible, folks. But built in the grounds of the Neolithic settlement at Skara Brae in the Orkney, Scale House sits on land inhabited for over 5,000. That'll do it. Yeah, 5,000 years will give you a bit of history, dude. Yeah,
Just a little bit.
and it's said to be
a little bit of stuff.
it's said to be. It could be built on top of an ancient Pictish burial ground.
Oh,
Holy
boy.
shinoly. So, which could be why there have been so many sightings of ghostly figures in empty rooms and odd occurrences like the sudden waft of cigarette smoke. There's one particular spirit that most intrigues visitors, or there's one particular spirit that most intrigues visitors to the Scale. Ooh. Now that Skara Brae that it talks about, Laird Scranton, he's done research on that, and that's where there's a prehistoric village that he connects to a tribe in North Africa called the Dogon. And yeah, remember we were looking as well at the movement of people into Scotland, like where the Picts might have come from and things, Scotty, the tribes and stuff like that. There certainly seems to have been a movement that ended up the top of Scotland. And if you've built a house on that, it's going to be haunted.
Yeah, and weren't the Dogon the ones that figured out where like Sirius B was before?
Absolutely, brother. They have like I think it was rituals to signify the orbits or the cycles of Sirius A and B. And like you say, we had no clue about Sirius B until telescopes caught up with the Dogon.
Yeah, we didn't even know that it was a binary star system until
it was weird.
And the Dogon are like, yeah, we've known that for quite a while.
And then I know there's one guy went to stay with them, and it's like most Indigenous peoples, I would imagine. You know, they have to build up a lot of trust for anyone who's coming into their circle of influence, so to speak, coming to live with them. Even to get to live with them, I would imagine is probably an honour that most people in the world would never be handed an invitation to. But tomorrow on the channel here, it's not the Dogon we're going to be talking to, but we're going to be talking to people that have connections to the land in Australia right here on the channel tomorrow. And that's going to be an early start for people if you want to tune in. It's going to be about 1 p.m. in the afternoon here in the UK. That's 10 o'clock at night for our good friends Luna, Donnie and Jess. And that's what, if it's 1 o'clock here, 10 o'clock in the morning on the west coast. Sorry, east coast. And 7 o'clock on the west coast. So we'll be getting our own ancient knowledge tomorrow. I can't wait for that. And I need to remember to pack away my toxic Kev, because it's that whole matriarchal system, Scotty. I get put right in my place, man. The women take over. And I tell you what, right? It's absolutely brilliant. I think we need to get back to that more kind of natural, holistic, in tune with everything kind of lifestyle. I really do, man.
Yes, I agree. I think we've lost touch and we've forgotten a lot of things that we need to start getting back in touch with.
Absolutely. So next here we've got Elgin Castle. And people, you'll probably know that castle. It's in so many TV shows. Usually any tourist thing for Scotland. That's your castle. That Rocket Castle. It says one of the most photographed. There you go. One of the most photographed castles in Europe, if not the world. Elgin Castle, near Kyle of Lochalsh, where I used to go and play shinty and win all the time because they were gumph. It's said to be haunted by a Spanish soldier who was killed in the siege of 1719. Again, that's that time period, Scott. During the first Jacobite Rebellion. And the ghost of Lady Mary has also been spotted in one of the castle's bedrooms. And when you got a castle that looks like that, it would be disappointing if it didn't have a ghost, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's just that picture right there is screaming. Yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah, definitely.
What was a Spanish soldier doing at the Jacobite Rebellion, man?
Yeah, you've got Bonnie Prince Charlie. There was a French connection to it all as well. I dare say it was the Gaels, the Gaelic kind of thing going on. And I don't know, maybe up that. I don't know, dude. I barely know where some of the islands around Scotland are. I don't know what a Spaniard was doing there, man.
I guess. Well, I mean, I guess it would.
Bullfighting.
Maybe...
That's all Spaniards do, right? They fight bulls.
Well, I mean, I guess it would make sense because your three big, I would say, powers in Europe were obviously the British, the Spanish, and the French, right? And they all hated each other. And so maybe there was some Spanish connection up there trying to help the Jacobites as well. Who knows? I don't know, man. Very interesting.
I don't know. I'll just have to have a think about that one, Scott. But if we come on down here and we scroll down, St. Andrews Cathedral. St. Andrews, the home of golf. It's famously where Prince William went to university, and he fell in love with his sweetheart, Kate Middleton. Or at least that's what we're told. We would have to do another story and all of that. But St. Andrews is a really, really nice place. If you're ever in Scotland, it's one of the places to go to. But it also says St. Andrews Cathedral is rumoured to be haunted by two ghosts. A friendly monk who has been encountered on the stairs at St. Rule's Tower. And the beautiful White Lady. You might want to cancel that name just for the next couple of months. I wouldn't want to see all those white ghosts getting cancelled out there. So for the past 200 years, people have reported sightings of a lady wearing, oh no, white gloves, gliding through the grounds before vanishing at the cathedral's haunted tower. Legend has it that stonemasons, yes, repaired the haunted tower in the Fife town, broke through to a sealed chamber, and found a number of coffins? What? One lay open and contained the fully preserved body of a young woman. And you know what she was wearing? Oh yeah, she had on white gloves.
Ooh.
Now, that exactly, and that is a bit of an X-Filey type one there. Indeedy, if I turned round and Anne had white gloves on there, that would have been priceless, but he's just never thought of it.
I think I'm going to have to pull a Lothar here and say it was the Masons.
I think I'm absolutely going to have... They probably installed the secret chamber for a start. They had to be in on it, right? They had to be. They knew it. Pesky Masons. My stepdad will be listening right now and he'll be spitting fury going, I've told that boy we're not doing anything wrong. I know you're not, Frank. I know you're not. But some of them are. I know it. I know it. I know it. I read online. I read on the internet. I heard it.
It's okay, Frank. We're not implicating you in anything.
We don't think you're part of the grand conspiracy, old Franco. Not that I know of, anyway, but I'll be checking. But anyway, this one here. Dunottar Castle. Never even... I have heard of it. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't heard of it, but I don't know why it's haunted. So, Dunottar Castle near Stonehaven has been the scene of many dramatic chapters in Scotland's history and is home to several ghosts. A girl dressed in plaid dress has been seen in the brewery, while a Scandinavian man was spotted going into the guardroom. Another haunted housey. Dunrobin Castle. I was done with Robin in the 80s. Once the CCTV came, alright, sorry, not that kind of Dunrobin. Alright then. So we come, look at that place, Scott. Come on, man. Look at that.
That looks like it's got a little bit of history.
No, that looks like it should be in some soy boy shire down in England somewhere. And yes, Jason, I know I've just triggered you, but I'm doing it on purpose. Says a young woman is said to haunt the seamstress's room in the upper floors of Dunrobin Castle near Golspie. Yeah, I've been to a few good dances up in Golspie. Can't ever remember getting home. That's how good they were. Went to a New Year's party up there once. Totally irrelevant story, Scott, right? It was like the 5th of January. I hadn't been home at this point. And it was like, honestly, something out of a Western, dude. We were in there for about an hour. And it's kind of tribal and clannish up there. So if you're from another place, people might know your face. They might have seen you playing shinty, or they'll know one of your mates. And it's still a bit standoffish, though, even in this day and age. And I don't know what set it off this night, Scott. But seriously, dude, if only it had been the time when we had cameras and we could have filmed it. You're literally talking about chairs going from one side of the hall to the other. Tables going. Men, fully grown men just running at each other. And it was like, I don't know what started it. I'm thinking to myself, to this day, somebody must have organised that, because how could like 100 people all lose their mind at the same time and just start going crazy, dude?
It happens.
It does. When a bar fight goes, it goes.
When a bar fight goes, a bar fight goes. We get our fair share here.
Oh, dude, you'd love it over here, man. I'm telling you, dude, there's something about mine and your family. In some weird way, we're connected. There's too much woo going on. Stirling Castle. Yes, indeedy. Lovely place. You see it from the road when I go up home to Inverness, and it's called one of the most important castles in Scotland's history. Stirling Castle is reportedly haunted by a ghostly Highlander dressed in full traditional costumes, complete with a kilt. And I don't know if he's got anything on underneath, ladies, because he's a ghost, right? You can't pick up his kilt. It's like your hands would go through it.
But if he's a proper Highlander and he's dressed to the there's nothing underneath. There ain't nothing underneath.
There ain't a dang thing under there. He's often mistaken for a tour guide. Wow, imagine that, eh? You turn up at the castle for a tour and you end up speaking to some like long dead ghost Nobody's going to believe you, man. They're not. The ghost wouldn't even believe you. You don't see him trying to haunt this place. Come on. Stories have been told of visitors approaching him, only for him to turn away and disappear before their eyes. Ooh.
He's probably like, here come these idiots again, thinking I'm the tour guide.
Yeah.
Time to phase out of here.
Either that, or he's like literally a real dude, and he's like got a lab somewhere, and he's made a really cool kind of slowly disappearing invisibility cloak. Anytime he has to work, he just presses the button. Ooh, I'm out of here.
This is like one gigantic troll.
Yeah, basically. So Polzin Castle, that poor photograph, you can barely see it there. But it says here, hanging off a cliff face on the Ayrshire coast. How many people went off the edge of there, Scott? We were talking earlier on about these people, you know, the 1%ers back in the day.
I'm saying,
look at the guys. Nobody's knowing about that, man.
How easy would it have been to just walk outside and whoop?
Yeah, two people go out for a walk and typically only one comes back. Something's going on there. So it says several ghosts are said to roam the castle, including a young woman wearing a ball gown and a ghostly grey mist. And there it is, Scott. There it is. We got 11 into our list before our little common thread came back to us.
Yeah, you knew it would have to make its arrival sometime.
Yeah, there was either going to be that or a Mick Tommy knocker in here somewhere. I don't know. There was going to be something that connected it in, which was spotted moving around the grand oval staircase. A ghostly piper is said to play his pipes in the grounds, particularly when a member of the Kennedy family is about to get married. And he will also be heard playing on stormy nights, mixed with the sound of wind and crashing waves from the ocean. Oh, yes, indeed.
Ooh, nice.
There's a setting for a spooky film if ever there was one. Inverurie Castle, look at that thing.
Oh, man.
Again, a home fit for an English soy lord. Anyway, we'll scroll down here. Beautiful Inverurie Castle, set on the shores of Loch Fyne, is said to be haunted by a number of ghosts. A young Irish harpist who was killed by the Duke of Montrose's men in 1644 reportedly haunts the MacArthur room, while the castle's Grey Lady has only been seen by daughters of the Duke of Argyll. Now that's weird. How the Grey Lady's only been seen by daughters of one of the dukes. That's pretty weird, is it not? Bit selective.
Yeah, like a targeted haunting in a way.
I wonder what the Duke of Argyll's one of the women in the family done to put. That sounds like a curse on the other women, right?
It does. It does. Like,
and Armand in the chat room earlier on, he was talking about how near Glasgow there's a town called Paisley. I think it's actually city status now, irrelevant. But he was saying it's cursed. There was actually like witch trials and things going on there, so we'll need to dig that up later on in the show if we've got a cursed piece of land near Glasgow. Another spooky apparition is the ghostly Galley of Lorne, which can be seen floating away on the horizon when a duke dies. That's pretty weird. The old Tay Bridge. A bridge haunted in Dundee. The Tay Bridge disaster. A bridge disaster? Was there any owl men kicking about at the time? The bridge disaster is one of the most memorable engineering catastrophes in Scotland's history. On the 28th of December 1879, just 2 years after it opened in Dundee, the bridge was hit by a terrible storm which weakened its central section and caused it to collapse while a passenger train was crossing. Unfortunately, all on board passed away. Now, it's said that on the anniversary of the disaster, a ghostly train can be seen crossing the part of the Tay where the ill-fated bridge would have stood before disappearing at the point of collapse. What remains of the old bridge's pillars can still be seen beside the current day bridge. That's a weird one, eh? Very.
Similar to like ghost ships and stuff like that. You
Yep.
know, and
That's something
obviously
we've never really done
yeah.
on here before, Scott. We've never really dipped into the ghost ships.
yeah, we might have to really focus. Do a whole thing on ghost ships sometimes. And
That'd be a good idea.
And yeah, I mean, you got to figure a lot of trauma. Everybody on that train passed away, probably in a very horrible way. I mean, if it fell into the water, you got to figure a lot of them probably drowned in the cars. And
That's not that ain't no nice warm piece of water either, you know. That's coming in from the North Sea.
not a good way to go. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. A ghost train going across the bridge.
I'm gonna have to look into that more. Undoubtedly, there's gonna be a bit of woo attached to the whole kind of the train and the bridge thing. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some lore of something going on round about it in the months leading up to it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you joked about the Owl Man, but what was there some kind of a harbinger, some kind of something that may have?
That's the kind of thing we need to start doing, maybe, to see if there is the commonality, some common denominator. It's like Nick Redfern recently, he started covering how the victims of the black-eyed children all share an interest in the occult. And that's brilliant. I love that, because nobody's really looked at that deeper. And again, well, what does it mean, Kev? It doesn't really answer anything. But it shows us something. We might not know what it means yet, but at least we can narrow down something on it.
Yeah, that there's an extra data point that you can add to the thing, and to start building maybe a bigger picture. And
it's like I've even started thinking, Scott, with the missing 411 cases, right? I mean, this sounds bizarre, but David Paulides is one guy, and he has done a lot to bring this information to the surface, but how much can one guy and one team do? I mean, are they factoring in the planetary movements? Now, that sounds utterly bonkers, right? What the heck's the planetary movements got to do with people going missing in national forests, Kev? I don't know, but I'm just asking, is there a correlation? For example, does it happen every Mercury retrograde? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Talking of Mercury retrograde, Scott, hold on to your equipment. Because we are in one of the biggest Mercury retrogrades of our life right now. It's some kind of grand solar maximum retro. I've made that bit up myself. But it's a biggie. Nano was telling me all about it.
Has it been going on already?
It started, yes, 2 days ago it started, I think, dude. I came on a show one night, and I just couldn't get going. It was like just all day was, I've had a similar day today. It's like this retro, or Mercury retrograde kicks off a period of inner reflection for me now that I'm looking at it. But yeah, I've picked up on it, and it was Nano said, Kev, this is what's happening. And I played a clip from Joni Petrie. We used to.
We used to laugh at the retrograde. Popeye was always about the retrograde for a long, he as long as I'd known him, he's always was like, yeah, we're in retrograde. He's like, stuff's gonna start breaking and things are, you start wreaking havoc. And I was like, what? But I definitely think there's
Friday. We jinxed ourselves, wasn't it? Me, you, and Joe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we sat there laughing away, ha, Mercury retrograde, these loon balls, sparks going off. Joe's computer gone. My life ends up in rag order. Scotty, everything's going on. Yeah, be very careful to mock the Mercury retrograde, folks. You learn the hard way. And even one of our listeners, Mammoth, in the chat, we've just been talking about the Mercury retrograde on here. She goes to her car. Not happening. So yeah, if weird things are kicking in, and I believe it goes on for about a month, Scott. I believe we might even. I know, dude. I know. I know. And
And I don't-
2020 as well, you know. You just 2020 can't get any better, right? Throwing a bit of Mercury retrograde.
I think I think we're just in a perpetual Mercury retrograde. It's just a nonstop Mercury retrograde for 2020. Yeah, like I just got through. I just had to repair my sister's computer. Her video card died the other week. You know, about a week or two ago,
I
and
knew it was coming.
luckily, I still had my old video card.
Nice.
So, you know, I kept that because I probably need that for something. Sure enough.
Yeah, as much as I love the sound of my own voice, I can't compete with that orchestra when it kicks in there, folks. But Jason in the chat room. Jason, I need to make sure the alert box is on. We've got another one to play. Now, DJ Bison's already put a super chat in. We'll get it after this one comes in. I'll play them. There we go. There's King Sweet.
PPP to all the badass people in chat and Kevin Scotty, thank you.
Oh no, thank you, King Sweet. Thank you, brother. And this one from DJ Bison. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? With a little bit of marijuana, a little bit of blow. Wookiees smoke bifters everywhere we go, oggy oggy.
I tell you, man, you people in the chat room should like put together like a collection of your super chat messages. Maybe we should do that one time because it does keep them all. And some of the highlights that we've heard and seen in the super chats, it takes it to another level, Scott, doesn't it? It really does, you know?
Yeah, some of them are just absolute, just nuggets of gold.
Yeah, Jason in here. Jason was saying, I'm nearly done with the owl video and added owl goddess to the video. I think it might be misgendered and I have a theory on why. Holy shamoly, you were talking to me about him. I think it was you anyway, Scott. He's really uncovering some really good woo. Or Jason, isn't he? From down the south of England there. It's like an untapped source of woo he's getting into.
Yeah, Jason's been doing a lot of really good stuff down there, man. I mean,
apart from getting eaten alive in those creepy woods, he went to them, dude. He's got a video out now. I don't know if you've seen it, but he went to the woods. I'll pull up a quick bit of it here while we're talking. But he got eaten alive. It was nasty. It didn't look good at all. Where are we? Normal. There we go. Channel. Bring it up on here for everyone at home to see. Why is that? Get that off. Get the dark theme on. Come on.
yes,
Come
there
on. You got to get in with the trend. You got to have it this colour for at least a month. Come on. So it says here we go. Whitson. Right, that's a spirit box he's got going on here, man.
You got a message?
Right, before we even listen to this little bit of it, this is why I paused this here when I was watching it. Scott, one thing going into a creepy set of woods, right? It's another kettle of fish altogether taking a bloody spirit box with you and then thinking, oh, we'll crack it on now that it's getting dark, eh? What a guy Jason is, man. I'm telling you. He says he's actually serious and could get us some very woke points. Jason, if you attract that mob to your channel, I ain't gonna be anywhere near it, dude. They hate me.
Message for us?
Right, you see, I don't care that isn't making any sense. That noise in dark woods where you know there's little people knocking about. Nah, not for me. I'm just saying, not for me.
Hearing those little bursts of like breathy noise and stuff coming from that box.
No way, man.
I'm like, no.
I remember Kenny. Big shout out to you, Kenny, if you're listening. Brother. Literally a brother. When when we went to the Clavacairns at night and he puts on the phone app with a spirit box on it, it took a couple of minutes to start annoying me, but I tell you, there's something really weird about it. Here we go. Well, I can't believe it, but it's hour number 2 already on today's show. And if you are enjoying what you're hearing here on tfrlive.com, we've got you covered. Because we are the warm-up act for the #1 paranormal show on not just this network, but any network, in my opinion. It's our good friend. I'm not biased in any way. It's Brent Thomas with the Paranormal Portal. And good news for all you woo seekers and woo lovers out there. Myself and Scott and the guys, we hooked up with the team from Paranormal Portal for a very special Friday the 13th, and we all enjoyed that. We really had good fun that night, to the point where I've mentioned in the past, you know, maybe we'll do it again sometime soon. Mark your diaries. Go and have a look. Check when the next Friday the 13th is, because myself and Brent, we're both well up for it. I kind of dragged Scotty into it. He's only finding out about this now, but at least it's confirmed now, Scott. I'd thrown it out there a couple of times, and now it's solidified. It's going to be a thing.
Awesome. I look forward to it. And if it's going to be anything like the first go around, the 5-hour woo-a-thon, it's going to be good.
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think if we all, you know, put our minds together again and go for it again on this next Friday the 13th, it's going to be some good stuff. So, yeah, people, look forward to that.
And
no doubt.
Brent is doing some great work. The Paranormal Portal here, he's got his nightly kind of ghost show that he does on YouTube's as well, and yeah, it's a no-brainer, folks. If you like what you're hearing here, you're going to love Brent, because he's a great guy, great content, stream looks great. It's a good crew over there in the chat room as well when Brent's on. So, big shout out to Brent, and he'll be coming up right after this today. So, how about now, Scott, we take a little journey into some minor spirits, cryptic witches, goblins, and more.
I like it.
You think so? Yeah, for a bit of that?
Yeah,
Sound good?
I'm down. Yeah.
Let's do it. It says here, in his 1892 book, Etruscan Roman Remains in Popular Tradition, Charles Godfrey Leland tells a fascinating story. But before we get to that book, however, a bit of background on Leland from George Knowles. Quote, Charles G. Leland was an American scholar, folklorist, humorist, and prolific author who wrote several classic books on English gypsies and Italian witches. Aha, the Bernardanti, I bet you they were in his books. Astral travelling witch hunting cult of females who eventually, after working for the Vatican, they were going out hunting witches on the astral plane, Scott. And then one day, like the Knights Templar, they fell out of favour and they ended up being hunted themselves. Yeah, very interesting story that. But during his time, he wrote more than 50 books on a variety of subjects and penned uncounted articles for many major periodicals. Now, his writings inspired the likes of Gerald Gardner and Doreen Valiente, as well as many other pioneers of modern-day witchcraft. In America, he is also recognized for his effort to establish industrial art as a branch of public education. Leland wrote, there is in northern Italy a mountain district known as La Romagna, Toscana, the inhabitants of which speak a form of Bolognese dialect. It looks like spaghetti bolognese to me. These ramagnoli, and that looks like ravioli, I'm getting hungry now, are manifestly... Sorry?
like bologna. It would be bolognese.
Bolognese we go for over here. Bolognese,
Something like
bolognese. Yeah. We'll just call them...
Tomatoes.
We will call them ball. They spoke ball. There you go. Keeps everyone happy. And the Romagnoli, not the ravioli, are manifestly a very ancient race, and appear to have preserved traditions and observances little changed from an incredibly early time. It has been a question of late years whether the bolognese, balls, are of...
We need Leo Zagami.
Yeah, he would be cool at this, wouldn't he? Ah, the Mamma Mia. But Etrurian origin, and it seems to have been generally decided that they are not. With this, I have nothing whatever to do. They were probably there before the Etruscans, but the latter at one time held all Italy, and it is very likely that they left in remote districts those traces of their culture to which this book refers. And Leland continued that the title Romagna was designated to the area in question for one specific reason. Centuries earlier, it was part of the papal or Roman dominion, and the specific area to which Leland was referring was situated between Forli and Ravenna. And during the course of his research, Leland uncovered something intriguing. Among these people, the Stregeria, or witchcraft, or, as I have heard it called, La Vecchia Religione, or the old religion, exists to a degree which would even astonish many Italians. The Stregeria, or old religion, is that almost akin to my friend Geordie and his old ones as well, Scott? I'm just saying. Go for it, man.
I would say what they're referring to would probably be like, I don't know, what the Italians would consider like the pagan religions that existed.
Yeah, before Christianity spread there, right?
Yeah, the old religions. Yeah.
So it's something more than sorcery and something less than faith. It consists and remains as a mythology of spirits, the principle of whom preserves the names and attributes of the old Etruscan gods, such as Tenea or Jupiter, Phaphon or Bacchus, and Teramo in Etruscan terms, or Mercury. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. With, yes, the brain connecting dots that absolutely never existed. So with these, no, Scott, honestly, man, if we hadn't spoke about Mercury retrograde, like that would never have come up. It's a sign, Scott. I'm telling you. Nah, you see, it would have worked with the 17th letter mob, but what can I say? With these, there still exist, in a few memories, the most ancient Roman rural deities, such as Silvanus, Pallas, Pan. Now, I've heard of Pan before. And Fawns. Now, Christopher Everard, I remember talking to me about Pan one time.
Isn't Pan the like goat-headed, the hooved sort of deity that?
Yeah, it's got the horns on here. Here we are. Here, quick kind of thing. In ancient Greek religion and mythology, Pan is the god of the wild, shepherds and flocks, nature of mountain wilds, rustic music, and impromptus, and companion of the nymphs. He hangs about with nymphs. What a guy. How would I join that club? But getting back to this, it says here, to all of these invocations or prayers in rude metrical form are still addressed or at least preserved and there are many stories current regarding them. Leland further noticed that deeply connected to the acceptance of and devotion to such ancient gods, there was a local, secret tradition which taught that every living thing... And my cat's singing in the background, can you hear her?
Yeah, it's hey.
She's singing in her sleep. This is what she does now. Yeah, it's weird. It's crazy, man. Man, animal, plant, flower, tree, and so on contains a life force, Mr. Scott. A supernatural essence that many would term the soul. Now, the recycling of the soul into new forms after death was part and parcel of the old lore too. And Leland also learned that, quote, all kinds of goblins, brownies, redcaps, and 3-inch mannequins haunt forests, rocks, ruined towers, firesides, and kitchens or cellars where they alternately madden or delight the maids. In short, all of the quaint company of familiar spirits which are boldly claimed as being of northern birth by German archaeologists, but which investigation indicates to have been thoroughly at home in Italy, while Rome, as yet young, or it may be unbuilt. I've never heard of little people in Italy been connected before, dude.
It's very interesting, and this ties into a lot of the stuff that Max was talking to us about.
Yeah.
You know, and so now we've got this Italian connection, where it looks like they were documenting and talking about the same stuff going on there as well.
Yep. Fascinating, man.
Very
So it says he added that linked to the acceptance of the Folletti, also referred to as minor spirits, and their attendant observances and traditions were huge arrays of magical cures with appropriate incantations, spells, and ceremonies to attract love, to remove all evil influences, and to ensure certain events occurred, such as to winning a game. To invoke spirits is to ensure good crops or a traveller's happy return, and to effect divination or deviltry in many curious ways, all being ancient, as shown by allusions in classical writers to whom these spells were known. And I believe that in some cases, what I have gathered and given will possibly be found to supply much that is missing in earlier authors. And during the course of his studies, Leland discovered that many of the peasant folk of the Romagna area had deep knowledge of what he referred to as, quote, scores of these spells. And he expanded on this by saying the skilled repetition and execution of them is in the hands of certain cryptic witches and a few obscure wizards who belong to mystic families in which the occult art is preserved from generation to generation. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to drop the mic. I'm out of here. How can you top that? We're only like not even halfway in, Scott. We've had wizards, we've had witches.
Did our friend Johnny King, did he migrate from Italy? Just wondering.
Exactly. He is the only like real genuine wizard I can say I know. He like literally claims to be a wizard.
I noticed the King has been active on Facebook again.
Yeah, I noticed he'd sent me something, but honestly, I'm a man that's got a pretty strong constitution, and I look at some pretty sick and grim stuff. I don't know where he finds his memes, Scott. I really don't know where he finds them. There can be no corner of the internet that I have ever been to that resembles anything that man brings up.
Well, you know, Kev, he is a wizard. I think he just conjures these memes.
You might be right. I remember one time Joe actually showed me a picture of him and his wife. And I had to look at it twice. I'm thinking, is that a Smurf? Oh, he literally painted himself in blue paint and his wife, I think, was green. and they were going out for a roam around the woods. And it's at that point I thought, holy shimoly, I thought all the wizard talk was just like a bit of shtick that we had with John, but no, he literally is a wizard, man.
Yep.
Not many people can actually sit and claim that with a straight face that they spoke to a bona fide wizard. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like Scott's trying not to laugh. No wonder, dude. We had a story there that threw in. I mean, what did they throw in there? There was like little dudes. There was goblins, brownies, red caps, 3-inch mannequins. I mean, dang, dude, that's like the full plethora. I've never heard of a mannequin. MANIKINS. I'm gonna have to see what that actually is. I mean, I've heard of a mannequin.
Sounds very similar to the Anukin.
A very small man. A mannequin. I'm a mannequin. Superb. Oh, that's fantastic. I actually am a mannequin. I'm really happy with this. Oh, dude, it's been a great day. The meaning in the no, I don't want the meaning. I want like some lore, mannequin lore. Oh, the Dark Souls wiki fandom page on. Oh, what are we getting into? Live Dive. Here we go.
That's from the game.
Yeah, it's from a game. Yeah. Not good. We don't want that. Final Fantasy, not from that either. Something I know. No, it's about the game again. Well, I don't know. Oh, here we go. That's a book. That's a new one. I'm going to have to dig more into this. The mannequins. Very, very, very weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some good woo right there, bro. Some real good woo.
Are the red caps? Are the red caps what you would consider like
mushrooms?
The gnomes? Okay.
Would it be?
Mushroom?
Would it be? I'm just thinking of red cap mushrooms. So are they like? Were they?
That's what I was wondering. Would it be the red cap mushrooms, or would we be talking about like the gnomes, the pointy red hats? You know?
So that's literally where that. Maybe that's why your garden gnomes have a red hat.
Maybe.
I'd never thought why they had the red hat, but maybe it goes back to that lore.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I was wondering. Very possible.
How can two grown men have such a fascinating conversation about gnomes on a regular basis, Scott? What we don't know about gnomes, ain't worth knowing. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, an unhealthy fascination with gnomes and little people.
How do you fancy taking a shot of this one, Scott? There you go. I've made you the right size again. But there you go, man. Do you want a little shot of that one? You want to take a little stab at this bad boy before we go to the break?
Yes.
It deserves to be done just because it's taking us back into the land of the gnomes.
Yeah.
I take no responsibility for the way this show's going. We're literally opening links. This one, I must admit, when I'd seen that we were talking gnomies earlier, I knew this one was ready for going, but yes. Encounters with gnomes, Scott. Tell me all about it.
Okay. Encounters with gnomes, and this is part 1. So this is a multi-part series, I guess.
Method to the madness, Mr. Lopez. I'm telling you.
So it says, a storm raged outside the 100-year-old farmhouse in New York State's Hudson Valley. Lightning flashes filled the bedroom, followed seconds later by booming thunder, dragging 10-year-old Dave Barcelo from sleep. As the boy lay in bed on his first floor, his parents and sister asleep upstairs, he realized in terror there was something outside his window. Ooh.
Oh, no.
With the wind, there came this other sound, Barcelo said. It made goosebumps race over my body. It was an ungodly howling, a wailing that couldn't have come from human lips. No animal I knew could wail like that. This noise, from what Barcelo later called the Howler, drove him out of his bed, sending him down the hall to his grandmother's bedroom. He climbed into bed next to her. What is that, Grandma? He asked. Barcelo's grandmother said, the noise was just the wind. I knew it wasn't just the wind, he said. And I knew she knew it wasn't the wind. The wailing came around the house, closer to him. Grandma put an arm around me and held me tight, Barcelo said. The howling was right outside her window now, just a few feet away from us. I buried my face in her shoulder. The sound finally died with the storm, and Barcelo dropped into sleep. When he woke, sunlight streamed through the window. His grandmother was gone. He found her outside with a mop and bucket cleaning the front porch. I could see what my grandma was cleaning, he said. There were muddy footprints all over the floor. The muddy footprints were small, like those of a toddler. They were little, tiny footprints, Barcelo said. I got goosebumps again. I asked Grandma what made the footprints. She didn't answer, and she just kept cleaning. The Mahogan, Pequot, Mohawk, and Iroquois tribes that lived in and around the Hudson Valley all had legends of little people, some of which were tricksters associated with storms. See?
You hear about these tricksters a lot. Now storms is coming up, right?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, we're talking about this common thing that these, you know, we're talking about native tribes in the United States that supposedly had nothing to do with, like, a lot of the stuff we were talking about in Europe, right? That, you know, they had no contact with these other groups. But you're seeing a common thread of little people that are kind of mischievous and tricksters, right? So what's going on with this? You know, there's got to be something to this, man. So continuing on here, he said, I never did ask my grandmother about the howler again, he said. I think part of me was afraid to know what it really was outside the window that night. Legends of little people dance at the periphery of societies around the world. Yeah, just like I said. Elves, gnomes, goblins, trolls, Ebu Gogo. Whoa, what's that? Makia Wisug? Minihoon? Some of these entities are said to help humans. Others kidnap, rob, and devour. That's
like 3 shows sitting right there. The Ebu Gogo, the Makia Wasug, and the Menehua. And you see how that storm started when you were talking about that, Scott? It's the tricksters, man.
It is. It is. There's I'll read these next 2 paragraphs before we go to break, and then.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Sounds good.
Dr. Scott A. Meller, professor with the University of Wisconsin-Madison, teaches Scandinavian mythology, and said there's a rich history of little people in Scandinavia. Oh, no doubt. The Tomte, small, white, bearded, pointed-hatted gnomes. Ah, we were just talking about the pointed-hatted gnomes. Lurked around farmhouses and were troublesome, often tying cowtails together if they were angered. One did not want to be too nice or too mean to a tomte, Miller said. If too nice, it would no longer help you. If too mean, it would perform mischief. Like many cultures, Sweden is populated by more than one diminutive human-like creature. They are one of several creatures in Swedish folklore, along with trolls, nake, water spirits, and elves, Miller said. Mostly they are demonic creature, probably due to the church that explain the phenomenon here on Earth. Often etiological stories in Sweden, at least Miller said. These stories are no longer given much credence.
That doesn't mean that at one time, though. At one time, Scott. Yeah, it sounds like there was almost you had to live in perfect balance with these little buggers, right? You know, too kind to them, they wouldn't help you anymore. They got a bit complacent. Too mean to them, they would get a bit, like, leery, tie your cowtails together, you know?
Oh, this is going to get interesting when we get back because we now have a connection to Kansas coming up.
Oh, get out of here. And like, folks, I never read this earlier. We literally, and Jason and Spooky Andy, as two of our viewers slash panelists here, they can tell you that me and Scott don't lie when we say we literally don't put it together. We let one story go to another, and we'll see what Scott says, or Scott will see what I say, and it goes from there.
We very rarely actually prepare for the show. We really do pretty much do it on the fly.
Yep.
So,
but it works.
Yeah,
it works.
It does.
And we'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. Grab your Tommy knockers. We're coming right back. I really don't even want to think what the algorithm made of my last statement there. Grab your Tommy knocker. But hey, twice will do it. Anyway, thank you all for being here today. I'm going to shove on some tunes, Scott. I'm going to build up the atmosphere for us coming back in the Kansas connection. And we've got a lot of ghost stories we can dig up along the way. If people want to even recommend some, try to think of something that's going to connect to where we've been going so far. And I'll keep my eye on the chat. Scott will keep his eye on the chat. We'll make it a little bit bigger. But before I do put the music on and I turn off that crazy, scary kind of thunderstorm going on, Luna is in the chat room. Donnie is in the chat room. Jess, I hope, is in the chat room. And she goes from guest to co-host tomorrow. She'll be co-hosting with me as we go down under. Yes, indeed. G'day, mate. It is the show from the Australian outback. Oh, no, almost, Scott. Almost. Until the last word. The last word ruined it, man. Last word ruined it. But can always throw another shrimp on the barbie. Or we can get some Sheilas and some Bruce. And you see, man, I'll do good down there, man. If I just master that the didgeridoo now, I'll be giving it large. We'll be going for it, man. And dude, I'm going to make sure I send you the show tomorrow because this, when we got together last time, was pretty special. I've got a real good gut feeling about this time. I think it's going to be...
I think so.
Raising the bar, big time. So I'm going to shove on some tunes. I'm going to take a little refreshment break. And then, my good people out there, we will get back to you. And Scotty is going to continue to take you into the woo that you all come here for. Yes, indeed. So we'll be back in a little moment. Keep it real. Here we go. And is it going to play? And it's gone on to... There we go. Yay. The second half of Freaky Friday is with us already. We're back from the break and we are raring to go. I'm going to hand it back to Scotty Lopez in just a moment, but get a load of this, Scott. Spooky Andy. Now, I'd seen you'd messaged, but because I had you on the screen here, I can't go to the message. I've got my phone here, I forgot that. I could have gone to my phone. But anyway, it worked. We got there in the end. And Spooky has sent the following through. You know that the whole red cat mushroom thing and the gnomes and psilocybin are where the whole idea of Santa Claus came from, right? No, he's real. I ain't reading any more of that. No, not having any of it. You try to tell me Santa isn't real. There's children, there's men children like me listen to this show, Andy. But he says, I told you I had some Christmas woo, but I figured I just laid it on you. The garden gnome sing with a red hat, or thing with a red hat, is a mushroom link via the psilocybin. There you go. Very interesting. Very, it is, because you got the red caps and you got the red capped mushroom thing as well going on.
I mean, it would make sense, and there really is like a tie-in with the whole Santa thing, right? Because who works for Santa to make his toys? Elves, right?
Or are they Tommy knockers? Or are they mannequins? Like me, a little mannequin. I'm a little Glasgow mannequin. I like that. I'm going to call myself that. Can I call myself the mannequin from Glasgow? I did. I am now. But Scott, before I get too carried away, having so much fun here with you, you're going to get back into the story now, and I'm really keen to find out how on earth's name this connects back into Kansas. So I'm going to give it back to you, bro.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering as well. I mean, I kind of glanced down and I just saw Kansas pop up, and I was like, okay, this could get interesting.
Now, just so if people see me on my phone, I'm not ignoring Scott. It's a message for the show from Andy about the info we just got, okay? I'm listening, Scott. I'm not ignoring you, brother.
So it says, however, there are modern tales of these little people that come from places like Iceland, Hawaii, the United States. Well, that's kind of redundant because Hawaii is in the United States. New Zealand.
I knew it. That's my antipodal point, New Zealand. That's right through the earth from me, man. Mm-hmm. That went right down, dude.
From New Zealand and Colombia, South America, and the people who encounter them consider them all too serious. Says Dan Bortko's family moved from Wyandotte County, Kansas to Liberty, Missouri. So they moved from Kansas to Missouri in
He's not in Kansas anymore.
No, he's not in Kansas anymore. Yeah, so Bortko's family moved from Wyandotte County, Kansas to Liberty, Missouri in 1948 when he was about 9 months old. His family didn't know it, but something already lived in the house on High Street. The house, a stucco bungalow built atop a hill in the 1920s, wasn't the only structure on that site. An old barn still sat outside the two-bedroom house when the Bortkos moved there. In that house in 1952, Bortko saw something that has haunted him since. I'll call him a troll because that's what he reminded me of, Bortko said. Bortko, he was four at the time, napped in the same room as his two younger brothers, both in cribs, when something brought him from his sleep. As his eyes slid open, he realized he and his little brothers weren't alone. I had just awakened from a nap and was rubbing my eyes and still saw it, Bortko said. It was an old man with a long beard, large nose, about 3 feet tall, standing at the foot of my bed. I was astounded. Wow.
Look at that thing. Holy heck, man.
The little old man wore German lederhosen and held a pipe in his hand, smoke rising from the bowl. As the troll stood looking at Bortko, he smiled through his beard. winked, and disappeared through the closet door. Whoa!
Way back to Narnia.
Yeah, I mean, is this literally what he saw? Standing at his bed, at the end of his bed?
Oh, that is, I'm telling you, man. It's a fine line between you and that picture I just posted at TFR chat.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, was he like, hello, little boy?
At least
How
you've
you
got
doing?
the kind of right headwear on. Good health and safety being maintained there by the gnome that you're depicting, Scott. You wouldn't get down any mine in the UK without adhering to health and safety. Even gnomes have to, man.
So it says, although Bortko doesn't think he saw the little man again, later in life his mother told him he often talked about someone no one else could see. As a child, my mother said I had an imaginary friend and I called it by its name, he said. My mother said it sounded like a science fiction movie name. During this time, Bortko remembers looking out his bedroom window at night and seeing people near the old barn in the backyard. Little people. There were fairy tales pictures on my wall. There was a man on the mountain smoking a pipe, and this reminded me of him. As a child, Bortko, now an artist with a master's degree in photography from Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, once tried to capture his little man on paper. I remember doing a drawing of a picture of a man's face with large dark eyes, he said. And my brother Bill started crying every time he saw it. He was out of his wits. Wow. Bortko and his brother weren't the only ones to see the troll. David Schwab, 54, grew up in Orange, New Jersey.
When was that last story, Scott? What year was that? 1952.
It was in the 50s.
Yeah, pretty recent then.
Yeah. So, David Schwab, 54, grew up in Orange, New Jersey, and is familiar with tales of a similar entity. His friend Jerry saw one of these trolls in the early 1960s. So this is around the same time frame, I would say, 50s, 60s. I remember Jerry always talking about some kind of troll, elf, or leprechaun type critter with a rather long beard being on his steps, Schwab said. Schwab met with Jerry in December 2009 before his friend moved to the Philippines and asked him about the story. He said that when he was a kid, he was in his backyard and was startled by a small gnome-like man with a long beard standing by his back porch. Schwab said. He said he had funny clothes on and a pointed hat and all. The entity, about 2 or 3 feet tall, just stood at the steps, staring at him. This wasn't the last time the gnome made an appearance at Jerry's house. When Jerry was in his 20s, his 5-year-old nephew took a nap in an upstairs bedroom. When the boy suddenly screamed and ran downstairs, crying. He said that he was woken by a small man with a long white beard that stood and looked at him, Schwab said. Sightings of these entities aren't that uncommon, nor as we see in part 2 are they as benign.
That is, I mean, this story's from 2013. It's not one, we weren't going to the mysterious universe back then, but this is timeless because we're going back to not as far in the past as I thought. That's like the 1900s there, you know, that's less than 100 years ago we're talking, folks.
Yeah, we're talking about the 1950s and 60s that people are having these encounters with apparently the same type of entity. I mean, we're talking about 2 completely different Missouri and New Jersey, and they're describing the same thing, a small 2 to 3 foot gnome-like creature with a beard and a pointed hat.
Yeah, who comes out and talks about that? And I would imagine, of course, I've not really looked at it, but these two separate stories, probably no idea about one another, describing same things that you hear been described in Europe, around the world, Native Americans, and if we go all the way down to Australia, get a load of this. What a way to start the day of the big show, because Luna has informed me that they woke up to a lovely mist this morning, Scott. A mist, indeed. Yes, indeedy. That'll charge up the energy ahead of this big Australian walkabout that I take part in once a month. I'm loving it. But listen, why don't we dive back in to part 2? And a big shout out to Spooky Andy. I actually thought he might be up for getting dragged in, but I just went to Skype there. He's working hard. But I think we're going to need to get him on sometime soon to take us into this angle on Santa that he has. But I'm only going to host that show that night. I'm going to stick my fingers in my ears because I don't care. I still think the big red fella. Listen, if there's big feet out there, Scott, there could well be a Santa. I'm just saying. Okay, I'm just saying. But anyway, if we now head across, and I'll take you into part 2. How's that sound? And you can take the next one. We'll go shot about. How's that go?
It sounds good. Whatever
Then,
you want to do, man.
Sounds good to me. Then we get a rest. We go. So then, let's bring it over here. And let's see if I can add to the woo that Scotty just took us through right there. We'll get the bit of atmosphere. Oh, yes, indeed. And just before we came on air today, funnily enough, Scott was saying it's getting ready to go lightning and thunder there. And
I was about to say, Kev, here pretty soon, I'm not going to be able to distinguish between if you're actually playing that or if it's actually going on.
Well, I was actually thinking maybe I could ditch the soundboard and you could open your gate a bit and you could provide the sound effects, The
RTX AI will not open that gate.
Nah, it's too intelligent, right? Yeah,
it's too intelligent.
I mean, what kind of podcaster would want like background weather coming through? The Kev Baker Show on Freaky Friday, of course. We're different. It hasn't been trained on the abnormal, paranormal. So then, Encounters with Gnomes, Part 2. Pointed hats, long white beards, 2-foot stature. Gnome-like entities were once part of daily life in Scandinavian countries. John Carlson of New Jersey, author of the blog The Paranormalist. I absolutely love it. Damn, that would have been a good name for a show. Remembers his grandma Alice's stories of these entities well. Grandma Alice, born in 1891 and raised in Sweden, knew of the mischievous nature of these gnomes. The Tomtar, also spelled Tomte. When I was a boy, she told me stories of the Tomtar.
Keeping real.
Thank you so much. Bravo, Whiskey. And we're trying to keep it real, but there's that much woo out there. I'm going to suspend real in my brain anyway for the next hour or so, because I'm having good fun today. Thanks for all being here, folks. I've probably said it 100 times, but what a great end to a pretty crappy retrograde day. Grandma Alice was born in 1891 and raised in Sweden and knew of mischievous nature of these. Right, we got past that bit. So she told him, or he's telling the story here. When I was a boy, she told me the stories of the Tomtar, Carlson said. Small beings that took the appearance of old, bearded men. Grandma Alice told him that the Tomtar were generally benign until a human upset them. Then they would curdle milk or break items around the house. Carlson said his grandmother told stories of seeing Tomtar footprints in the mud and the snow. It's got kind of connections to the last story we were on, the little footprints and things, Scott.
And remember the photo, was it Carol sent you?
Yes, in the mud.
Tiny footprints in the mud.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So we can loosely loosely say that this phenomenon might not be a thing of the past. And
No,
still,
I don't
yeah,
think
yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. Okay, we didn't need the music to come on there. That's okay. That was, you see, little tricksters. Mannequin. Dr. Scott A. Meller, professor at the University of Wisconsin, Madison, teaches Scandinavian mythology. Whoa, imagine getting a master's in that. That'd make you a genuine, like, a genuine gnome expert. Like
Exactly.
Yeah. A Bachelor of Science of the Gnomes? Oh, dude. And said these creatures were once important in some parts of Scandinavia, but that was a long time ago. Quote, I am rather sure people may have believed in them over 100 years ago, comparable to current belief in ghost, he said, and today the Tomtar has been relegated to the stuff of legend. Maybe not. Maybe not. Isn't that right, Carol? Although some Scandinavians still observe ancient customs when it comes to keeping these gnomes happy. Because of tradition, you might find people who still leave oatmeal, grot, out during Christmas, but it's rather equivalent to leaving cookies for Santa Claus. Santa comes into it, eh? Crazy. But sometimes stories of these gnome-like creatures can be much too real. When Tammy moved herself and her 3 children to the county house by the Tool River near Porterville, California, she didn't know something wicked waited for them. We always got the feeling of being watched. Now, before I go on, California, Scott, kind of during my time on the show, it's often come up as a place where there's been witches' covens. Now, that's not to say all witches are bad or anything. But my point is, it's a kind of supernaturally charged kind of area, if you've got that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, I would say that it's a magnet for maybe people that engage in that kind of activity to go out there because of, well, I mean, there's areas of California that are just ancient forests, right? I mean, we got the redwood forests and all of that out there. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about some old forests and trees and stuff that have been around a long time. And so yeah, I would say that there's just already a natural energetic properties out there. And
I mean,
so
you look at some of those trees. I mean, the redwoods in California. I mean, how old do you reckon some of these trees are, Scott?
Oh
Hundreds?
man, I can't even.
Couple 100 years, is it?
At least,
isn't it?
I'm thinking more along the line of probably more like close to 1,000 years.
So?
That some of those trees.
I mean, I've usually just only looked in awe, like I am now at the pictures of the redwoods. But yeah, you could probably do a whole show on that. Only on the Kev Baker Show or Freaky Friday would you get somebody dedicating a whole show to trees.
But no, I mean, like you said, so that would probably, people that are into that kind of stuff, they would be drawn to California, for a lot of those reasons.
Yeah.
So
and a big shout out to all of our family over there in California. Nano Girl, big shout out to you. Jimmy as well, if you're tuning in. And Jimmy's talked about the redwood forest and the trees out there, and just how he always talked about how you could just feel you could feel the energy out there, so that's where we need to be, dude. If I won the lottery, I'd get me and you coast to coast. We'll go and do all the woo spots, man. It would be like a dream come true, man. And I don't know if I'm too keen on taking Jimmy into the forest with us. Maybe only one of us come back then. And it's probably going to be Jimmy. It'll be a wee man with a white beard. A wee mannequin. He's a wee mannequin, isn't he? I'm going to start calling him a wee mannequin as well. Jimmy's a mannequin. How tall? Well, how tall, Scott? Go on, say it. Well, used to be.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows?
So you're a mannequin too, then?
Yeah,
We're all
Yeah.
mannequins.
we're all mannequins.
All mannequins together. Let's get back into our mannequin story. So it says here, mannequins. We always got the feeling of being watched. Now that's that feeling I've spoke about before. That goose fleshy feeling. It's almost like a built-in defense mechanism, I would imagine. From back in the day when there was threats out there, you needed to know if there was a threat in the surrounding area. Your subconscious picks up on it. Hairs on the back of the neck go up. Anytime you feel that, not to make you uncomfortable, just so you know though, there is something there. So one spot on the farm especially put it on edge. The barn. The family animals, dogs, a cat, turkey, chickens, and ducks avoided that rickety, dark building. We had a lot more chickens and ducks, but they started disappearing, Tammy said. And I also noticed that none of the neighbours' animals, or stray animals for that matter, would go anywhere near that barn. It was without a doubt just creepy. Now, I'll come back to something at the end, but she soon discovered why. One evening, my son, who was 7 years old at the time, and I had just come back from the grocery shopping, Tammy said, and we parked and got out of the car, and as I was opening up the back to get the groceries out, I noticed a movement out of the corner of my eye. And as she lifted a grocery sack out of the car, she saw the movement again. This time, I heard a very freaky, very evil-sounding chuckle. And I looked in that direction of the sound, and there, standing about 50 yards away from my son and I, is what I can only describe as a gnome. The creature was about 2 to 3 feet tall, wore baggy black pants, and a gold-coloured shirt. Pretty trendy, by the sounds of it. Yeah, he's got a salt and pepper beard going on. It's like a woke hipster kind of like gnome. And it ran from beneath a red pointed hat, Scott Lopez. That thing grinned at us, and the creepy grin spread from ear to ear, and its teeth were a gross brown and pointed and jagged. And she said it had a bulbous nose and large, deep-set eyes. She dropped the groceries, grabbed her son, and the wicked little man cackling after her as she ran into the house. Tammy burst inside through the kitchen and slammed the door. As she tried to tell her daughters about the panic, or about her panic, something moved outside the kitchen window. She looked and saw the top of the thing's red pointed hat. It had to be about 10 feet off the ground. Scott, I'm trying. People are thinking, oh, Kev's laughing. Kev's laughing because I'm a bit disturbed. Imagine that, dude. You're getting out your car. You have an encounter with what you can only describe as a gnome. You get in, you're trying to tell your family, who are probably thinking, here we go. They've been back on the Q-aid. Now we've got gnomes in the garden. What next? But then you see the little fella's red hat just sticking over the windowsill. Oh, you better hope one of them seen that as well, because nobody's believing you at that point. You'd be as well just, nah, I'm not playing anymore.
I think I figured something out, Kev, and this will all make sense.
Ah, you've
now.
put it together now. Oh, dang, dude, what have you figured out?
Yes. I think I have figured out why the Scottish have such a fascination with traffic cones.
Yeah, yeah. You might be right. You might just be right.
I think the traffic cone triggers some genetic memory, some resemblance to the gnome hat.
I'm saying nothing, but I'm getting very uncomfortable. That's all I'm gonna say.
And that's the reason why they also like to adorn the traffic cone on top of statues.
Oh my! You knew I was going there. I was gonna say, you see, we roll differently in Scotland. We don't take down our statues. We just find different ways to put cones on their head. It's what we do over here. In fact, Glasgow Council now, they'll actually put the cone back up if it ever falls off. It's brilliant.
See?
Yeah, yeah. So
See?
really,
Yeah,
it's
so-
homage. They're doffing their cone. That time of mannequins in Scotland. Mannequins, I tell you.
There we go.
Scott
I think we've
Lopez,
sussed
yeah,
Kev.
I love your mind, man. I love it. That is priceless, dude. Seriously. So then this little thing now is somehow floating 10 feet above the ground and just sinisterly letting its hat be seen. And on that note, we'll be back after these short messages. Don't go anywhere. Nowhere. I'll be right back.
It's about grab my things. It's time to go now. I don't think that.
There we go. There we go. It's getting a bit like Dr. Dolittle in here, man. I've got crickets. I've got dolphins. There's nothing really I can do about it, Scott. But
Yeah, you
that
have
was-
an unhealthy level of animal sounds
That
starting
was
to.
brilliant.
that board.
I've got an unhealthy level of animal noises that I haven't even put into the board. Why did I download animal noises for a start? I'll just go and get myself a selection of cows and sheep, and because you know you're always like wishing you had a cow or a sheep soundboard, right? Never, Scott. But yeah, this has been good fun. I must admit, I was in two minds whether any shows would happen today. And you know what I went and forgot all throughout the day? I went and forgot what Nano had told me. I was going about with a bear with a sore head, didn't know what I'd done wrong, or think, you know that feeling you just can't put your finger on it, Scott? It's like, should I have done this? Nope. Did I need to be
I
there?
was feeling like that. I was feeling like that yesterday. Like I first woke up and I didn't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday. And then like it totally fell off, like I was forgetting something or that I needed to do something, or I don't know.
I'm just hoping this isn't like the way of things to come for 2020. It's just going to keep getting crazier and even like personal craziness going on. And can it get any more crazy right now? And Chris, who was on with me earlier, I've not looked deeply into the story of the whole Mayan calendar change. But I think he was saying something about the 21st. Now, if that's the 21st, obviously me and Scott will talk about it on the 22nd, because that's how we roll every end of the world. But that's 24 hours from now, my friend. Are we
Well-
picking up on the energies coming in?
We shall see.
What does a Mayan calendar changing at the time of Mercury retrograde do for one's weekend? Tell me.
Mm,
Yeah, and we've got an eclipse coming up as well, right? I think Australia had an eclipse yesterday, did they not?
Yeah, there's supposed to be. It's not going to be like a full eclipse, but it's going to be what they call like a ring of fire kind of eclipse.
It looked like a fat donut, the one I seen down in Australia, the picture I seen, which was weird. And I know it'll probably spark a bajillion conspiracy. That is now my plural. There's too much word going on, so it's just now conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, so we'll get back into the conspiracy sometime soon. But today, we are getting into little people so far. Where we go?
And I just looked up redwood forest. Some of the oldest known giant sequoia out there is thought to be between 3,200 and 3,266 years old.
What?
So
Oh, we need to come back. You need to bring that up when we come back, before we get back into the story. I'm thinking a couple 100 years old.
yeah, no, we're talking about a couple thousand years.
I tell you, the stories those trees could tell you if you just knew
Yes.
how to be a tree whisperer. Do you reckon there's such a thing as a tree whisperer out there? Bet you there is.
I mean, people make fun of tree huggers, but maybe there's something to that.
Well, I used to make fun of it until I'd heard a lot of people. We'll come back on it. We'll come back. Here we go. That there is half Spooky Andy, half the Wookiee. And 1 week soon, hopefully we'll get the full Spooky Andy. And we'll get Jason back in as well. That roundtable format was real fun. And again, thank you, Spooky, for... he's working away and yet he's still listening and takes time to dive in and send us links. That's amazing. But before we get back into the mannequins and the little people, we'd brought up the redwood forest and these trees. Now, I was thinking, Scott, you know, probably 300 to 500 years. But that would have been probably my far limit, right? Tell the audience how old some of these trees are, man.
Yeah, because I was thinking, nah, a couple hundred years is not.
Yeah, because that's your typical tree, isn't it?
Yeah, like we have a tree out here on our property that's probably, I would say, 150, 200 years old, probably. But no. So some of these trees out there, they date around 3,200 years old, at least some of the oldest ones that have been found out there. So, yeah, that's a very old forest. Very old. I mean,
can you imagine? I'm trying to think what it would feel like, Scott. What it would feel like if you walked through there, you know, the energy.
Think about that. Some of those trees first started growing 1,000 years before the birth of Christ.
Mind-boggling, man.
Yeah. And they're still there to this day, alive, you know?
That's kind of crazy. That is kind of crazy. I see that it's things like that. That to me, that is a cool thing to know. And you see, whatever else happens today, I am all the better off now for having that piece of knowledge. And the next time it comes up, I can say, well, I can tell you how old the trees are. And I'll give Scott credit for it. But here we go, folks. Here we go. We're going to get back into the fact that this thing had a bulbous nose and large, deep-set eyes. She dropped the groceries, then grabbed her son. And did we not have this? Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we got into the house, the thing eventually disappeared from... That's it. There we go. The thing eventually disappeared from the window, and Tammy retrieved the groceries from the car. She never saw it again, but until the day she moved, she heard the gnome's creepy chuckle coming from the old barn. Oh, my word. Wouldn't have gone down to that old barn, Scotty. There we go.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, this is very similar to the previous story, right? Where there was an old barn, and seems like they like to hang out in old barns.
They're almost as if they like to hang about a working kind of farm, land that's been worked, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's almost as if you have a relationship with them if you're working the land, right? That's what it seems like. So it says, although Tommy's family had gone, the gnome wasn't finished terrorising whoever lived in that house. Charlie, her husband, their 2-year-old twin girls, and 2 golden Labrador retrievers, gorgeous dogs, moved into a 2-storey house by the river in March 2010. Now, the house was perfect for us, she said, exactly what we were looking for, and we couldn't wait to move in. There are 3 bedrooms, a huge kitchen, dining room, and living room, and lots of windows all around it. Now, the deck was opened off, or the deck that opened off the back door, overlooked the woods and the nearby Tool River. A deck in the front overlooked a pond. Now, Charlie placed fairy, gnome, and toadstool yard ornaments around the pond and stocked it with Japanese koi fish to make it feel more like their home. That feeling wouldn't last.
Hold on, Kev, but before you continue, there's an interesting piece of woo that somebody dropped in the chat. Jesu Reloaded said, of the redwoods, I've heard that they were planted by giants or were part of Tiamat and became part of Earth when they crashed into each other.
Dang, dude.
Very interesting. Just thought I would
Drop that. Drop the
Drop
mic
that.
on your way out the door as well, Scott. Yeah, there you go. Take some of that. It's a bit of tea-mat left over.
Yes.
I've never. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talking about that whole thing and that, but that's something we'll need to do a show on one of these times, dude. We're taking a quick deep dive and all that. So it says here, Tartaria as well. I fancy deep diving that one on a freaky. One day, while walking back from the river to the house with her daughters and their dogs, the dogs became riled. Well, dogs for me are a very good early warning system. Their sense as animals.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
big time. You agree?
Oh yeah, because our dog, he's half lab, half German Shepherd.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So let's just say he can definitely sense when something's going down, because both of those breeds of dogs have a very, very keen sense of everything, smell, hearing, all of that stuff. So whenever our dog Bubba is getting riled up about something or is getting antsy about something, then you know something's going on, no doubt.
Big time. So it says here, as they approached a rickety outbuilding Charlie called the shack, the dogs began to snarl and bark, the hair on their backs standing up. Now something told me to run, so I grabbed a twin under each arm and I ran for home, she said, and something about the shack gave me the creeps, especially at night, but I don't know why. I would imagine, even if you can't put your finger on why it is you're getting a sense like that, I would say it's a good drill to pay attention to it and run. Your instincts are trying to save you from something that you don't want to be there for. That's
your gut, your sixth sense, whatever you want to call it. Your spidey sense literally is tingling, and just go for it.
It's like if a family member was to be in the house, Scott, and you didn't know about it, right? You wouldn't get that ominous feeling, even though random noises come from the part of the house they're in and they come towards you. You still wouldn't have that same fear,
Exactly. So it's your natural. We talked about that natural connection that we used to have. Those natural abilities. That's that kicking in, and unfortunately, a lot of the times now people. Yeah, your intuition, if you will. People don't listen to that anymore when they probably should. Probably would get a lot of people out of really bad situations if they just go with their feeling, listen to their intuition, and just do it. Don't
even away from the paranormal, Scott. As a young guy, anytime I got in trouble, I always remember there was an opportunity for me to have listened to that voice that used to say to me, don't do it. This is going to get you in trouble. It's the same thing. Yeah. When you get older, you don't have that. It's not as pure. You don't have that kind of conversation in the head with it, right?
Yeah.
Scott's thinking, phone the guys with the white coats. Kev's admitting he's got voices in his head. It's Dave. I'll just send them to Dave, okay? Right? But there's another third guy sneaking in as well, Scott. This multiple personality syndrome's awesome. So it says here.
Okay,
right,
Kev. I hear them too. It's
shared insanity equals normal. So everything's good, Scott. She began to notice none of the animals, not even wildlife or stray cats, would go near the shack until the day she heard the fight coming from inside. It sounded like a cat was in a fight with something way bigger than it was. Her husband grabbed a flashlight and ran to the shed. Just as he got to the door, the noise stopped, she said, and he went in and looked around with the flashlight. There was a cat. It was totally skinned on one side, and its neck looked as though something had taken a huge chunk out of it. He stepped outside the shack to catch his breath, and when he looked back, the cat was gone. There was no way that cat moved by itself, she said. We were standing right there. Where did the cat go? They discovered the cat was the least of their worries. So one night around 3 a.m., oh, it would be 3 a.m., wouldn't it? A raspy, gurgling singing woke Charlie and her husband from sleep. It was without a doubt the most hideous sound I'd ever heard. It freaked us out. So Charlie and her husband looked out of their bedroom window and saw something that challenged their sanity. What a brilliant sentence, because that's exactly how you would feel, right?
Yeah. You see something that is not computing in the brain, and you immediately go, am I crazy? Am I really looking at what I'm looking at here?
Scott,
yeah, I like
the
that.
next time I find something new, I'm going to say to you, Scott, I have found something which will challenge our sanity, my friend. Yeah. Challenging sanity. That'd be a good name for a show as well. Standing by my pond holding one of my garden gnomes was what I can only describe as something out of a Grimm's fairy tale. The thing that was standing in our yard was hideous and grotesque. Now, up until this point, Scott, I think most people described them as just old kind of men with beards. There was nothing really too evil or sinister up to this point, right?
Is that the form they take? Or are they shapeshifters?
Yeah, do they really look like that? Like a hag? Like got
Yeah,
that
do they
beautiful
really-
appearance, but really it's an old hag?
And you know, in order, if they're going to interact with humans, do they shapeshift into something more?
You see, I've wondered that about all A to Z of the paranormal. All the way from, try to think of some, an Anukin, all the way to, I'm going to be struggling with a Zeta Reticuli. Somebody from there, right? It's a stretch. Bunyips in between somewhere. But any of these things, right? Bigfoot, chupacabras, not so much chupacabras, but Bigfoot, ghosts, all of the things, are they all the same thing? And do they just manifest as different things at different times for reasons unbeknown to us? But in the end of the day, your Bigfoot is also your rake. Your rake is also the owl man. The owl man's also the mothman. Do you think there's some crossover there?
I don't know. I do think that there are phenomenon that are like that they can be kind of like separated out differently. Like we're not talking about the exact same thing. But I think in all cases though, like we're talking about some kind of like otherworldly interdimensional sort of creatures. I mean, so that would be, I would say, the commonality between them. But I would say that whatever, you know, these interdimensional things probably exist in many different forms as well, you know, in their realm. So you're dealing with different things coming from other, you know, somewhere else.
You wonder if like these other realms, like where ghosts are, right? Wherever ghosts are, do they pick up on other energies coming into their realm? Like, is there creepers that enter the ghost realm?
Like I've always thought that, say, you know, like if we're talking about timelines or parallel dimensions or something like that, and we talk about the phasing of the two, right?
Yep.
How many times do you think stuff has phased from our reality into theirs, and they saw it and was like, "Whoa," you know, like it became a paranormal experience from their end.
Yep.
You know, and like maybe they saw something replaying or something occurring in our timeline.
So one of these times when Jason goes into a prison, he's actually going to pick up voices and ghosts that have decided they need to do a paranormal investigation of their own, because there's these skin suits that keep appearing from time to time and probing things into their dimension, stupid contraptions trying to make them jump and measure them, and what are these things, you know?
What if there's another Jason doing a paranormal investigation?
Now, you know that's
he's
more like it.
And he's encountering himself. You know?
And the ghosts and the big feet and all the rest of them, they lie between the worlds, Scott. They walk in two worlds.
Dang,
dude.
Knows.
Who knows? Who cares? It's good woo. It's great. Anyway,
woo.
yeah, it's good woo. It's good woo. So this thing was hideous. It was grotesque. It was an ugly little mannequin. Not like me. A human creature stood... I got all excited there. A human-like creature stood under the bright light. I actually thought I was the creature caught. Oh no, somebody's looking at me. Look. Under a blight light. Blight light, I tell you. It's bright light of the motion detector. It was 2 or 3 feet tall, with a long grey beard, maroon pants, and a baggy yellow shirt, brown vest, and a dark waistcoat, and a reddish-brown pointed hat. Oh, this thing was dressed for a night out, wasn't it? We're going on a date or something. So the thing that made this creature really hideous was its eyes and teeth. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, anything standing 2 to 3 feet tall, standing like that, I ain't hanging about to see their eyes or their teeth. You know what I'm saying? It looked like it was grinning and its teeth were jagged and pointed. The eyes were little beady and dark. I mean, well, it would have looked silly with big eyes. He's only 2 foot tall. Isn't he?
Wait, did she say that the thing that it had that it was holding one of her garden gnomes?
Yeah.
So the went and stole and took one of the little garden gnomes out of the...
Thing was pissed, man. It's like, I'm not having any little avatars of me hanging about your pond. You've got me.
Yeah, like, you think it was angry that, like...
Try to replace him, dude. He thought he was getting replaced by his porcelain overlords.
Maybe he thought that they were mocking him or something like that, you know?
I bet they never bought any gnomes again. So it says, as the creature stared at Charlie and her husband, it reached into the pond and it grabbed a koi, dropped the fish into its mouth and swallowed. Charlie's husband pushed the window open a few inches and screamed at the creature. It's more than I would have done. Telling it to leave their yard or he'd call the police. No, that's pathetic. I'm sorry, Scott. There's no way you come almost toe to toe, hanging out your window. You're not going to scream at a 2 foot tall creature that's just eating your fish and he's waggling your gnome. He's scaring the life out of your wife. You're not going to say, oh, you, get out my garden or I'm phoning the police. You ain't going to do that. That never happened. Guy was under his bed. His wife dealt with it, didn't she?
You think this cryptid gnome really gives a crap about the threat of having the police called on him?
He probably shouted back, yeah, that'll go down really well, mate. Go and tell them there's a gnome in your garden. See how quickly they get here. You absolute dauber. Know what I mean?
Yeah. 911, it's your emergency. There's a gnome in my yard that stole... There's a real gnome that stole my fake gnome, and now he's eating fish out of my pond.
I'd be like that. The dispatcher would say, yeah, we got a couple of clowns on ecstasy or LSD here.
Have you done any recreational drugs this evening? Can you please give me a list of any medications that you're taking? We'll send somebody to help right away.
Call the police on them. Oh, my word. The gnome grinned, laughed, and it gave them the finger. They told the police they had an intruder. Told the police they had an intruder, but the officers looking around their yard at 4 a.m. found only shoe prints the size of a small child. Well, it got all of us serious all of a sudden there, Scott, didn't it?
The police found a little evidence.
Yeah, mannequin boy here soon stopped laughing when they found the footprints. So it says the gnome came back night after night, holding a yard ornament and eating their fish. Any fish did they have? Just stop putting fish in there. Maybe that's what was attracting them. They eventually moved the ornaments and put the fish into a tank in the house. Bad move. They instantly realised that they had made a mistake. Oh no, I knew it. One night after they had removed the fairies and the gnomes and fish from the yard, the creature showed up at the usual time, 3 a.m. When it found the yard ornaments were gone and the fish were gone, it went crazy. It was yelling and screaming, something that we couldn't understand, but we did understand that the thing was pissed and wanted us to know it. Now the gnome ran around the house, screaming and gurgling. Then Charlie realised the dog door was unlocked. It was big enough for our dogs to go through, and it would be big enough for that creature to go through as well, she said. I took off running down to the kitchen. As I got there, the dog started barking like crazy at the doggy door. She shut and secured the doggy door, then ran upstairs to shut the windows. A fear hit me like nothing I had ever felt, and I ran back up to the twins' bedroom where they were both sound asleep in their cribs. Neither parent slept that night. They decided to leave the farm at Porterville, and the last we heard of that creature was a very loud screeching, cackling sound. It was under one of the living room windows, and when my husband went to check it out, he saw the top of the creature's hat under the window. Right then, we decided we were out of there. We couldn't stay there with that creature. That there makes this story 200 times more believable. If they really did move out on the back of what was going on there, we can laugh, we can joke. You're talking about a family up in sticks and moving out a place that they've paid a lot of money for, Scott. That sounds like a big property, dude. You know?
Yeah. Whenever it comes to the point to where you decide that you're just going to pick up your life and move, you know, just get out of there. And because, I mean, moving is a big deal, you know.
Exactly, man.
So if it's something that forces you to make that decision, yeah, you're right. I would say that makes it a lot more believable because people just don't pick up and move.
Yeah, they're not. It's not like they've opened up a gnome whispering business or something like that, where they've got a haunted house that's visited by gnomes and we can talk to them. No, you don't. But if you've seen a gnome like that, well, I would be out of there. How can you can't live with that if that is going on like they're saying. And I know people will be going, "You pair of numpties, man! Look at the state he is." I don't care. Go with it. If that is as bad as they're saying, you're right. You would move out.
Yeah, I mean, but on the other hand, I mean, you've got like the guy that lives with Shadow Dude, right?
He's a maniac. Well, let's be honest, Scott. I mean, the amount of activity that I do think is going on in that man's house, he's had teams there and everything. That has got to, like, have a lasting effect on you. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, like, I think if it was any other person, they would probably be out of there. But this guy, I don't know, like, maybe...
Has he found that balance?
Mate, I don't know, man.
Doesn't look much balance to me when it's scaring the life out of him when he walks into his bedroom and using his window as a portal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude, but I tell you what, if it happened to me, what that shadow dude in and out the window, I wouldn't be living there anymore. I'd have gone. Carmel, Maine, see you later. So, we get back to this, and we'll get this finished before we go to the break. Did Tammy and Charlie live in the same house? I wanted to know, so I told Charlie about Tammy's experience. Quote, the description of that barn and everything else sounds just like it, and the Tool River runs behind the house. Her experience was too terrifying for her not to find out. It's too creepy to think that there are more of those creatures, she said. I would like to speak to those other people to find out if we were in the same house or close to it. I would imagine. And it says, I put Charlie in contact with Tammy. And Tammy sent me an email and described the house that she lived in, Tammy said. And she started naming some of the side streets. And then I knew it was the same house or really close to it. The women eventually met and drove down to the property. It definitely was the same place, Tammy said. And as Tammy stood, looking at the house, where a 3-foot tall man with pointed teeth and an evil cackle had laughed at her, she saw someone had torn down the barn. Even with that shack gone, the whole place still had an eerie feel to it. And I don't know if that is because of what we dealt with while living there, or just the place itself, Charlie said. And I don't think I'll be going back there again. Before they left, the women approached their old house and knocked on the door. The current resident did not want them there. She was just hateful, and when we tried to ask her about the barn, she pretty much told us to get lost, and in not so many nice words. So Charlie was equally taken aback. We tried to ask about the shack and if she'd ever experienced anything while it was there. But we'll be back after the break. Don't go anywhere. Dang, dude, I thought I could just squeeze it in there. And it didn't. And for you people out there, it says, in fact, she told us to leave the property. I imagine it was more colourful, just by the type of woman this is. She didn't have to tell us twice. I was happy to get out of there. Now, right, let's say this is absolutely... These two women met up, Scott. They discover it was the same house. That there, for me, if that was about ghosts, which are easy, or more easy for people to accept, that would be one hell of a ghost story. Well, for me, that's one hell of a gnome story. That goes a long way to... Not that I think it needs any more credibility. I think there is something that it all stems back from. I'm a bit worried that it's still going on to people, like, to this day. I thought it was way back in the day, but who knew?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, and obviously we're talking about two people here who didn't know each other but ended up buying, or living on the same property, and then later on getting in contact with each other, and they had the same experiences at the same place. And so, yeah, I would definitely say that something very, very strange was going on there with the gnome. These evil, mischievous gnomes stealing yard ornaments and eating fish.
Yes, pesky little gnomes. I was just looking at the chat room there. Big shout out to ZX. We've got Russell, Woody Walker. What a cool name, man. Rotman, Ken. How you doing, brother? It's Australia tomorrow. I don't know if you've got Skype, if you want to come and chill ski, out ski. Well, I'll leave that with my very efficient co-host, the Mammoth Hunter. You see how I delegate, Scott? You see how I've done that there? It's cool. I just turn up for these things, man. I'm only joking, but it'll be good. It'll be real good. We've got Logos in there. We have got Kevin from Minnesota. We have the Just Be Happy. Good to see you, my brother. Always love to see you around, man. Lewis. Woody again. BW. Like that one. Paranormal Dispatcher. That'd be a cool job, wouldn't it? If you had, like, literal, like, supernatural cops that you called for, like, dog men and owl men and that. Would that make you the Paranormal Dispatcher? That's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, like, it's like on Ghostbusters, right? When she picked up the phone, she was the Paranormal Dispatcher.
The one, dude. I can't remember that far back, and I definitely ain't watching that woke version that they released a couple of years ago. But then again, neither did anyone else. So get woke, go broke. Yeah, you see that sly kick to them there. God, 1-0 to Baker. They'll be after me tomorrow, dude. They'll be trying to cancel me this time tomorrow. It's okay. But folks, yes, tomorrow, 1 p.m. in the afternoon in the UK. That's 10 a.m. on the East Coast, a very early 7 a.m. on the West Coast. And when we go whoosh, all the way down under, I believe, like that there, I went whoosh, and I went over and under. It's like we've got a figure of 8 world now. So we go over and under. Uh-oh, that's going to start rumours. We go right the way down under, or we go antipodal to get to you. And yes, That will be at 10 o'clock Australian time, I believe. No doubt I'll get a message in a minute. Tell me, Kev, you've messed up the time zones, but that's okay. We've got plenty of time between now and then. There's even enough time for me to sneak in some beauty sleep. Go on, say it. He needs it. I know that. Here we go. Just when the audience thought the Tommy Knockers had taken us away, Scott, those mischievous little impish gnomes. No, we're back. We've got one segment to go. I tell you, these Freaky Fridays, they really are. We're on a rich vein of form. I hope you're enjoying them half as much as myself and Scotty and everyone else that comes together to put this little 3 hours of craziness into what it is, Freaky Friday. And of course, we're warming you all up for Brent Thomas, who will continue this and then some after this show finishes, after the next break. So don't go anywhere. Please, please, please stay tuned. And Scotty, getting back to that Nomi type story, we were saying during the break, it's probably one of the, in my opinion anyway, it's one of the more credible, or for me, lends credibility to the fact that these things are around, not just way in the past, and along with Carol's footprints that potentially show something, that they're a real and present danger. I'm telling you, man.
No, I mean, I don't think any of this stuff is like just went away.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to what I was talking about, where remember we were discussing with Jason how, you know, with the Tommy knockers and all of that stuff, how it seems like at one point humans and these other, I'll just call them species, if you will, coexisted at one point, or struck some kind of a balance with each other. You know, they lived in somewhat harmony. I mean, obviously there was like these issues between, but they seem to kind of coexist at some level.
Do you
right?
think, Scott, to add to that and build on it, do you think either over the centuries we've become less conscious of them as technology's improved, the world's changed, more things going on, and over time keep going with that, they then fall into the stuff of myth and legend, but we ourselves can't actually decode them. Only a few people maybe can even see these things. We're not even able to comprehend they're there because our brains would go,
I think part of this has to do with, if we are talking about maybe some kind of interdimensional or an entity of some sort that lives on a slightly different frequency, right? Once again, it goes back to what I was saying. At one point, we may have been more in tune to it, so we would see them more often, right? Like they would actually have been part of our reality, I would say. And then as time has went on, like you said, we've lost our tuning to that. We've lost our ability to like decode these things and actually see them. And so these interactions with them become less and less common, as it just seems like, you know, we've kind of moved away from being able to perceive these things. Also, I mean, Jason brought up, well, and also it said, you know, in a lot of these things that as humans became more technologically advanced and making machines and doing all of this stuff, it almost seems like that these entities kind of didn't really want anything to do with us anymore and kind of went into hiding as well. So they don't really want to interact with us. It's almost like they can see that we've lost our way, right?
Yep.
And they're like, we're probably shouldn't be interacting with them and just kind of let them do their own thing or whatever. So I don't know. It could be one of those, or maybe it's a combination of both.
And
But either way,
you're-
I think we once were able to. I think we coexisted with these things and were able to perceive them a lot more in the past, and now we just don't.
And your cavernous world comes into a lot more then. A lot more.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, I mean, all of these stories of these little people, whatever name each location wants to put on them, they all seem to live in caves. They all seem to live underground and all of that. So that would definitely play a part of that. And if they decided to literally go underground, right, to get away from us, then
I wonder if our electromagnetics play into it as well. I wonder if that might be something to do with it. I don't know. We're just speculating, throwing it around. Now, that story we were talking about, I got drowned out towards the end of it, but there was nothing really more to say on it apart from the fact that the woman who owns the property now told them to leave. So we're going to go now randomly. This is one that I'd pulled up earlier, and I mentioned it at the start of the show. I've got a funny feeling it's going to connect, just because that's the way it is. Now, that story on the gnomes was from 2013, bear in mind. Now we're going to get into something called the Mysterious Stone Chambers of New England from today. And I think this website is based in Australia. It's definitely ahead of it's ahead of where I am in the date line, because I could have gone to this at about 6 o'clock tonight and it would have said June the 20th. Now people would have gone, oh no, that's been posted in the future. But no, we live on a spherical world, and I think they're in Australia. Would it surprise me to find out the website's in Australia, Scott? Come on.
It's still June 19th here in the U.S.
Yeah,
so
you see, yeah. Across the world, there are relics from the past that defy explanation and leave us many questions swirling about, but few answers. How often do we say that on this very show? Now, these places are steeped in impenetrable mystery. Their secrets long gone to the mists of time, and forever seeming to taunt us with their enigmas. One does not need to go to the far ends of the earth or to places like ancient Egypt or South America to find such anomalies. And there is such mystery, there is just such a mystery lurking out in the United States, which hints at wonders beyond our comprehension. So, found dotted throughout the countryside of Putnam County, New York, as well as in some areas of Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Vermont, are over 200 mysterious man-made stone chambers with their origins shrouded in the fog of history. So I think these writers have picked onto our fog and mist thing, and they're just doing it to trigger me now. So,
yes, I think so.
Brent Swanser and the elusive Mr. Nick Redfern are going, Mum will mess up Baker and Lopez. They're into mist. We'll shove mist into every story and we'll get them, right? You got me. Well done, guys. So it goes on to say, these chambers were made with no mortar at all, and were built using an ancient Bronze Age architectural design commonly known as corbelling, in which piles of stones arch and curve inwards to support the massive ceiling stones, which are enormous, very heavy slabs of rock. And some of the chambers lie underground, and others are built into hillsides. Some are quite large, with a few even sporting full double chambers, while others are barely big enough to stand up in. Now, despite... yeah, you know, I think where that's going. I'll finish this paragraph and then I'll come to you, Scotty, right? Despite these differences, they mostly all share some curious details. In every case, the entrances are orientated toward the south, the southeast, and the southwest, and align with equinox and solstice sunrises, with gaps in the walls that seem to be designed to let sunlight in. No, they absolutely are designed to let the sunlight in. In addition, they are all made from large stones that all have dirt, or they all have dirt floors rather than stone ones, and they almost always lie near a water source, such as a stream, a river, a pond, or lake. However, that's just about all we know about them. We don't know who built them, or why, and even their exact age a mystery. And so theories have swirled around them. And I'm going to post a picture over in the TFR chat room, but that is, as far as mysteries go, Scott, pretty good going. And that looks like a very small entrance, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean,
You ever heard of this before?
no, actually, I haven't.
No?
This
Same here.
is new to me. So, I mean, it's always good to get some new woo coming out of is this up in New York and
Yeah, on the East
Vermont,
Coast, yeah.
Connecticut? Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I don't know, man.
That's pretty weird, dude. I mean, do you know what that gives me? And with the Bronze Age thing it's talking about, it's almost very Pictish. It's almost that kind of Pictish feel to it. But listen, let's see what it says.
It also kind of has that feel of the caves and tunnels that Max was talking about.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
well,
remember the
a
ones
little
he
bit.
showed us? That there was an entrance to some of them.
Yeah. I don't know. Very interesting.
Jason as well, when he was showing some of the Tommyknocker stuff, I'm sure there was little entrances to old mines and things like that as well, which looked kind of too small for dudes. But
Yep.
perhaps one of the most popular theories is that the chambers were built sometime in the 1700s and the 1800s and used by colonial farmers to store roots, meat, dairy products, and vegetables. This is supported by the fact that many of them are located on old colonial era farms, and the low humidity and temperatures within the chambers compared with the outside world seems to make them suitable for storing various perishables. However, many disagree with this assessment, and while these past farmers most certainly knew of the chambers, there is no solid written evidence that they actually built them or used them as cellars, and indeed any mentions of them at all in the records are scant. They also tend to lie in areas that are sloped and would be impractical and difficult to access as mere cellars, and some are in areas with poor farmland to begin with. There is also the fact that these chambers seem to be designed to let in light from the equinox and solstice sunrises, and it seems unlikely that they would go through the back-breaking work of moving all of those massive stones just to have a basement for storage. Local historian Chip Marks, what a brilliant name. Oh, Chip Marks, come on, that's a good one, right? Cracker.
Nice. Yeah.
Has said of this. They're not root cellars, not by any stretch of the imagination. While buildings erected by settlers and colonists had straight walls, chamber walls are corbelled like igloos. If you were a settler, you're carving a homestead out of the forest. You're going to put your effort into building a house and a barn, not a root cellar that required the movement of massive pieces of rock. And most root cellars would have been in the house. Another theory is that they were built by ancient Native Americans up to 10,000 years ago, probably closer to the timing, for spiritual purposes, or as a winter burial chambers or sweat lodges. And yet a more bizarre theory is that these structures were built by pre-Columbian ancient explorers. Here we go. Perhaps the Celts or the Vikings. And I'm thinking it feels good, Scott. Feels good. In this scenario, the chambers are the remnants of these early forays into the New World. One idea is that the ancient Celtic Druids made it to these shores and used the same technologies used to make Stonehenge and other similar sites, and that they served as places of worship and ritual, celestial observations, or observatories, lunar calendars, places to celebrate the seasonal solstice and the equinoxes for religious or ceremonial purposes, or a combination of all of these. The idea here is that while colonial farmers may have found and used these chambers, they are much, much older than that. And one piece of evidence of this was a hand knife found in one of the chambers that was of the same type used by the Druids. And there have been claimed to be inscriptions of symbolic markings within some of the chambers believed to be Celtic in nature, as well as engravings that look like an ancient Celtic alphabet used between the 4th and the 10th centuries called Ogham. Now, this would also explain the use of such ancient construction techniques and the astronomical alignment of these structures. However, there is very little solid archaeological evidence to support the pre-Columbian explorer theory, and indeed there are very few pieces of pottery, bones, tools, clothing fragments, or anything else left behind to give us a clue as to whether any of this is true. Well, Scott, they already said there, let's just say for argument's sake, it's a lot older than the colonial times, right? So you get your colonists turning up there. Well, if they find something like that, the first thing they're going to do is have a look around at butchers. They might have found the tools. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I'm pretty sure when they turned up in the New World, they weren't like taking an itinerary of all the stuff they found in a creepy stone hole out in the woods, right?
no, and if they were going to repurpose it, they would clean everything out of it. They would clear it out and take anything out that may have been in there. And so, yeah, you're probably not going to find very much evidence now because everything has probably been removed for the most part. To me, what it sounds like is that these colonial farmers and stuff were stumbling across these things and just kind of repurposing them because, I mean, hell, why not? You know, you already have a pre-made structure there that can be used, and so why not? You know, no, I'm starting to go with this pre-Columbian theory here. You know, and you said towards the beginning of the article that it had that Pictish feel to it, right? And so now I meant that kind of, you know, that leads into that whole thing. You know, maybe we're talking about some travelers from a lot earlier than Christopher Columbus making it over there and
of course,
building some stuff.
If you're an archaeologist in America and you're trying to get a pre-Columbian, is that what they call it? A pre-Columbian explorer theory going, then I would imagine you're probably going to be met with a brick wall within academia that has people that have built a career on the back of the given history. You know, what we think we know about it. So you're always kind of having to not only like uncover the new evidence, Scott, but then you've got that fight on your hands to get it recognized because it's going to take work of people and rubbish it, you know?
But given the current state of society right now and the total kind of demonization of Christopher Columbus, right? You know, nobody wants to call it Columbus Day anymore and all of that stuff. I wonder if maybe there would be more of a, I would say a kind of academia reassessing the situation and maybe even looking into it more. you know, just because of the current kind of woke state of everything right now. And the you know, Christopher Columbus bad, you know.
You're spot on, dude. I honestly think, I mean, we talk about the wokeness and the statues, but I think it's just a little part of something real bigger, and it might be a few generations from now. But things happening at this time, it's going to change not only like how people look at this time in the future, but it might also change how the history that we've had up to this point may be about to take a different kind of, it's about to get edited. Like Scott said there, some of these people that have been given credit for finding things and discovering things, that ain't okay anymore. And I get it, the woke brigade think they're doing a good thing, but really they're doing the bidding of the elites that are setting the chess pieces and all of the furniture for us to go into the new cycle. I know, it's a bit deep, I know, but I'd love to take a time machine just 100 years from now, just to
like I
see
said,
what they say about now, Scott, and see what they say about what it used to be like.
Maybe that is the one. Maybe this will be one of the good things that might come out of that, right?
As long as they tell us the truth in the end, don't just put in somebody else fake, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
give somebody credit because they're from a minority group, you know?
Yes, exactly. I mean, but if it forces them to acknowledge that, hey, you know, there were people showing up here long before Columbus,
right,
and we get like an actual, like you said, the truth about that, and you know, it doesn't turn into some, no.
You see, the editing of history's cool. As long as you're going to really make sure you edit it to be correct in the first place, you know?
Yes,
not just to suit some narrative that you're getting pushed on you by the celebritards and the sport tards and the political tards. And it's a world full of them, I'm telling you. Can we just go and live in one of these, Scott? Can they still get us in one of them? Me and you. We'll just go in. If it's big, we can pimp it out, man. We'll get 5G in one of the masts, on one of the trees. You can get the 5G mast that looks like a tree. We'll get that. We'll have our Wi-Fi. We'll be jamming. You know?
Yeah, we can do Freaky Friday from inside the cave.
Live from inside the hovel. Yes, coming to you from a cave in inner Earth. The #1 abnormal paranormal show anywhere in this world or the next, and I don't care what any of the interdimensional interlopers tell you over Apex TV. I don't care. Even more fringe theories. Oh, we love fringe. I've also been offered about Putnam's stone chambers. One strange finding made in the chambers is that they seem to have an effect on magnetism. In the 1990s, a geologist by the name of Bruce Cornett, Dr. Bruce Cornett to be precise, went to the chambers armed with a device to measure magnetic variations, and he came to some shocking findings. He would say of this, quote, "They are the strangest readings I ever got in this area. It was strong enough to reverse a compass. Each stone chamber had a significant magnetic pull in front of its door. This magnetic anomaly is a true clue that they are much older than the early colonists." You liking that, Scott? You liking this so far? So it says, why should this be? Do you think that was almost like some kind of, to keep something out, maybe? The magnetic lock on the door? And I'm only going there. I think they were tapping into ley lines, man.
I think so, too.
Yeah, big time. Plus, you have it lined up with the solstice. You know, we were talking about Mercury retrograde to start the show. You better believe that these people, I think, were doing more than marking the movement of the sun. It's almost as if, whether they knew it or not, they were tapping into some cosmic energies that people like me and Scott sometimes laugh at today, but then get kicked up the backside by Mercury retrograde. I'm going to finish this real quickly before we hand you over to a brilliant guy in Brent Thomas. So why should this be? No one really knows. Whatever these chambers may be and whoever may have built them may forever pose a mystery for us. But one thing that is certain is that they need to be preserved. Many of the chambers have collapsed or been damaged by vandals over the years, and in other cases the wilderness has moved in to try and reclaim them, with trees and weeds overrunning them. In other cases, chambers have been bulldozed over or buried in order to make way for construction projects. And it seems if nothing is done, then these mysteries will never be revealed, and the chambers will die off as surely as the ones who made them. In the end, the stone chambers of Putney are a curious little historical anomaly that has never been fully solved, and one can only hope that they are around long enough for us to come to the answers we seek. Mic drop, we're out of here. Yeah, that was definitely right on cue there. Drop that mic, even though it's on the stand. I can't drop it even if I try. Listen to that, dude. Listen to this. The arm's gone, man. It's like, and of course it doesn't squeak and creak when I try. You getting it there? Not good, dude. Not good. Need to oil my arm. No, I'm not CP3O, but it sounded that way. Have you had fun, Scott?
Oh, it was good. Good stuff as usual, man. I mean,
for two guys that hooked up 20 minutes before a show with not a lot on the go.
Yeah, for a guy who was scrambling to get on air after waking up late and getting a shower and eating just like right before the show. Yeah, we did pretty good, man.
Oh, D-Light in the chat room. There's an old story about travelers to America with an old map long before Spain. Ah, yes, we know about that. That there, my friend, is the story of Oak Island, perhaps. And, yeah, Zena Halpert, unfortunately, she passed away. It might have been a couple of years ago now. But if not for her, she really done a lifelong job putting together some of the mysteries of the Templars and, you know, the whole Nova Scotia, all round that bit. And I haven't read her book, but I've enjoyed so much of Oak Island, and so much of her information has been pivotal to the guy's search. And Rick in particular, he really formed a close bond with Zena Halpert, to the point where all of her life's research now lies in the museum, the kind of visitor centre, Scott. She gave everything to them, and you know how they are. They preserve it all. They're making sure it's well looked after, and it'll be there for forevermore, and it'll be a testament to the work that she put in, try to put some of this together, you know. But yeah, her alone, her research definitely tells me that there was people way before what we're told going over there, Scotty.
Yeah, and I think it even goes beyond that as well. I mean, I think
there's Vikings and all sorts, man. Even back yonder.
Even before that, I mean, I think there was migration from South America to the Middle East. You know, when we talk about the Olmecs and all of that stuff, you know, Christopher Everard really does a lot of, did a lot of research into that, and shows that there was like this. It makes a really good case that there was probably an ancient trade route that was occurring, you know. And if you look at the Olmec statues and stuff, you know, their faces look a lot different than the indigenous tribes in South America, and a lot of their facial features and stuff look more Polynesian, right? So we're probably talking about a people that were hopping from island to island, you know, a seafaring people that were hopping from island to island and establishing trade route between going all the way into Egypt and traveling probably from Egypt down to Australia, and then from Australia hopping to South America. So this whole thing of the new world, quote unquote, wasn't really so new. Let's just put it that way.
Exactly. Who knows how many times it wasn't new before that? You know what I mean? I tell you, if we were to get a true picture of the story, Scott, I don't know how old this planet is. I don't know how long mankind has been on its journey to where we are today. But it'd be a right eye-opener, wouldn't it, to kind of get, like, the factual kind of stuff that was going, not his story, somebody's version of it, and a couple of lunatics like me and Scott try to decode it. Somehow just showing it all, even 1,000-year periods or something. I don't know, man. That's what I want to. It'd be cool as hell, right?
See how we're living in the chat. He says the booger sugar has been found in Egypt, and it's been found in mummies.
Jason's
and that
on
is
about.
Not.
On you go.
I was just saying, that's not indigenous to Egypt. That's indigenous to South America. And there's only one way that's going to get to Egypt is if somebody brought it there from South America.
Yep.
So I think that right there already kind of is a very that's a pretty obvious clue. And then we also got to talk about how easy would it have been to traverse the planet when the sea levels were lowered by 400 feet, right before the ice age?
Land bridges here and there, continental shelves risen and fallen. Who knows what it looked like, man?
Because when people think about how did they cross the oceans and all of that? Well,
there was no ocean.
Yeah, people are thinking about the Earth being the way it is right now, not the way it was back then. And if the sea level was 400 feet lower back then it would have been a lot easier to go from place to place than it is now, because there would have been a lot more land exposed, and so those distances would have been a lot easier to cover, actually. So
good woo, man. Good woo. And folks, I'll be back. I'll check the clock here now, get this right. "10 hours from now," my Australian friends will tell me. I don't need to do the math. Luna, Donnie, well, many hours is it until we go live on that show we're going to do? You know how I'm absolutely atrocious at my housekeeping and getting things organised. I'm waiting for one of you really cool people down under to help me out here, Cobber. They're probably all doing the math frantically right now. What time we all going live? I'm sure it was Logos is laughing. No wonder you're laughing, dude. Even I laugh at me. Yeah. Somebody's saying, did Egypt have snow as well? Dang. I don't know. Maybe they had a weather machine back then. Yeah. 10 hours, Luna. I love you to bits, Luna. I knew one of you would have me covered. I'm telling you. Yeah, so 10 hours from now, Scott, I'm going to be back here. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, honest. I will be. I'll be raiding to go. I've been looking forward to this since we finished the last time with Donnie and Luna and Jess. In fact, I'd even organised it before I let them go. I'm like, we have to do this all again. I think Ken might be coming as well. Yep, Ken, 10 hours to go. Perfect. So, I know it'll be early for you, Scott, but the way you game, you might still be up 10 hours from now.
You say that, but that actually might be the case.
Although I genuinely know that. I know my son being a gamer, the hours one keeps are a little antisocial unless you're a gamer. It works,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Big time. So if you had fun, a productive freaky.
Yes. And, on that topic, I think, what was it, last week, I went on, I believe, almost a 12-hour gaming run.
That's
I didn't
hardcore, dude.
realize it. Yeah, I started at like 5 p.m. and like I didn't stop until 5 a.m. Something like that. It was interesting.
Oh,
Hadn't had
Logos,
games like that in a while.
Logos, we love you, brother. We weren't having a go. I was just looking at the chat and it stood out as being random. Snow in Egypt, but then ZX, he's reminded us. Yes, there was snow in Egypt a couple of years ago. Yes.
And I think what they were getting at is because
Yes.
since they found booger sugar, yes,
Yes, I know.
It was definitely very snowy in Egypt.
Booger sugar. I love that.
Mm.
Love it. We don't call that booger sugar in Glasgow. We do now. I'll be telling a few people that one. Give it a while, Scott. You'll be hearing people all over Scotland using that term. For, snow. Anyway, we are going to make our way out of Logos. I know it's all good, brother. I just didn't want you thinking. I didn't want to end the show with any of you thinking that I'd kind of had a go at Logos, because that was not the intention at all. It's not how we roll here, unless we get any of those 17th letters in the alphabet, and then that could trigger me. It could all go wrong then. But you'll need to tune in to me and Scott on Thursday night on the Kev Baker show, because Scotty Lopez is going to come on, algorithm free, and we're going to absolutely unload on so many things that we just don't talk about on here. It's going to be right good fun, isn't it, Scott?
Yes. It'll be our weekly unloading of the ammo.
Oh, we fire up the wood chipper once a week, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to try and make sure Scotty is on once a week on KBS so that we can fire up the wood chipper. I tell you, Scott, me and you 12 hours on, Popeye and Joe the other 12 hours. In fact, we could go 8-hour shifts. We've got Andy and Jason to throw on the wood chipper duty now as well, man. Dang, you see, we get 16 hours off.
We're gonna have to develop that unlimited that unlimited free energy, that perpetual motion machine to keep that wood chipper going nonstop, because it's never gonna turn off.
I know how to do it. I know how to game the wood chipper. If we leave out just enough little drinks of whiskey and a little PPP, then in perfect harmony, we won't annoy them, we won't be too friendly to them, but the little people will help, Scott. Come on, man, is there nothing you've learned after tonight?
Are you suggesting a way of duping the little people in order to enslave them to run the wood chipper?
Fine line between duping and doping, but both work. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it's one last shout from our friendly flipper. We've got a Mothman.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
Ah, can you believe it? And yes, we dared to go where most shows won't.
How dare you?
And on that note, we are out of here, and it leaves only one thing. Whoa! I actually shat myself there, dude. Oh, that is so freaky. Holy moly. I'm like, why did... I had turned up in another timeline. I'm out of here. Holy smoke, man. You freaked me out on my own show. What's that all about? We're out of here, folks. Until next time, keep your mind. Don't you dare do it, Scott. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Set your clocks, folks. 10 hours from now, we will be down under, and we will be getting into some of the finest information that I could possibly bring for all of your attention. And remember, we don't tell you what to think. All I try and do is give you the information. I provide, you decide. And on that note, keep it real. Keep it... Is it mannequins? Keep it small. This show goes out to the little people, just so I don't have any problems with technology in the morning. Keep it real, folks.